Chapter 1376, Sneak Away, 2, What do you have to say? The Yen clan's first elder, whose face was filled with question marks, couldn't help but ask. The compensation you want is too much. I want to change it. The first elder of the Hong family suggested. I'm sorry, I can't change it. I've said it before, that's not the compensation that our family is asking for. Yen tribe's first elder's face was filled with stubbornness, and there was no room for discussion. Let me finish. The first elder of the Hong family roared. All right. Then tell me. Yen tribe's first elder was extremely helpless. He wanted to see what this old thing had to say. I request that the compensation be reduced by half. The first elder of the Hong clan had just started to speak when he was interrupted by the first elder of the Yen clan. No. Not a single cent less. The Yen clan's first elder didn't give first elder Hong a chance to continue speaking and said straightforwardly. What a joke, not all of those things were what the Yen clan wanted. If he reduced it by half, wouldn't the Yen clan have to bleed a lot again? According to his original intention, he wanted the Hong family to help them share the burden of the compensation. Hence, the Hong family had to pay the full amount. Let me finish. The first elder of the Hong family couldn't take it anymore and shouted at the top of his voice. Then, he continued, what I mean is, we'll only pay half of the compensation. In addition, you'll be responsible for treating your family head's injuries. That should be fine, right? This was a compromise that he had thought about for a few days. He knew that if he only said that he would cure Master Yen's injury and did not mention any compensation, the Yen family would definitely not agree. Therefore, they would have to pay the blood, and now it was only a matter of how much. First Elder Hong, the compensation we ask for cannot be any less. Yen clan's first elder said with a faint smile, Sure enough, as he thought, this old thing actually used the family head's illness as a threat. If the family head's injury had not been cured long ago, he would have agreed to the Hong family's request even if he was not willing. You don't want to treat your master's injuries? After hearing the Yen clan's first elder's words, the Hong clan's first elder's face was filled with disbelief. According to the news he had received, the Yen clan had put in a lot of effort and racked their brains for the sake of their clan head's injuries. Now that he had taken the initiative to offer treatment, they would rather compensate him than accept his conditions. This made him a little at a loss. He had thought about it for a few days before coming up with this compromise. He thought it was almost certain, but he didn't expect the other party to reject it. This made him a little confused and didn't know what to do. Seeing the stunned look on the Hong clan's first elder's face, the Yen clan's first elder felt extremely happy, The feeling of not being threatened by others was really good because their Yen clan had suffered quite a bit from the Hong clan recently. Therefore, seeing the Hong clan's first elder being suppressed, he felt extremely pleased in his heart. First Elder Hong, I actually wanted to say that we will think of a way to treat our patriarch's injuries ourselves, so there's no need for First Elder to worry. You just need to prepare the compensation we need. You can't miss a single thing. Of course, you can also choose to give up on these elites of the Hong family. Yen tribe's first elder deliberately provoked. From the Hong family's hesitant attitude, he knew that the Hong family had no intention of giving up on these people. It wasn't hard to understand. 8% of the people that the Hong family's head had brought were elites. If the Hong family decided to give up on these people, the Hong family would never be able to stand on the godly mainland. This was not a blow that the Hong family could take. Great Elder Yen, I know that our Hong family has offended you many times recently, but our two families have been friends for so many years. Can't you be magnanimous and let us off? The first elder of the Hong family played the emotional card again. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Novel, COM, First Elder Hong, did your Hong family not consider the many years of friendship between our two families when you were doing these things? Do you think it's useful to say this now? The Yen clan's first elder said with a look of disdain. This was the way the Hong family dealt with people. They had two completely different attitudes towards others and themselves. If others did not do what they liked, it was the other person's fault. However, even if they did something that everyone pointed fingers at, they would still think that they could be forgiven. How could there be such a good thing in the world? It was simply nonsense. This. Isn't it all because of the marriage of the next generation? The children are insensible, do we really have to argue with them? The Hong clan's first elder's face was completely red as he stammered. Of course, he knew that his clan was in the wrong. However, at this moment, he would rather die than admit it. Otherwise, their Hong clan would forever be controlled by the Yen clan. Are kids that easy to use as excuses? If a child of the Yen clan were to kill the head of your Hong clan, can we also say that the child is insensible and ask you to not hold it against him? Yen tribe's first elder raised his eyes and asked indifferently. Ah. The first elder of the Hong family did not expect the other party to use his own words to shut him up. He was at a loss for words. First elder Hong, we're not fools. It's better to be straightforward. Don't use this to bully others. The Yen clan's first elder warned very seriously. You're really not willing to let our Hong family off the hook? The first elder of the Hong family asked, unwilling to give up. First elder Hong, let me put it this way. Even if we agree, I won't be able to explain it to the others. Moreover, they've done a favor for our Yen clan. I can't possibly be ungrateful. The Yen clan first elder tactfully refused. A favor? What favor? I only helped you when our two families were killing each other. Besides, as far as I know, you should have some enmity with each other. Isn't your Ling still in their hands? Since you can bury the hatchet, why can't our two families do the same? The Hong clan's first elder gritted his teeth. The reason why he said this was to remind the Yen clan's first elder that the other party was not friends with them. First elder Hong, this is different. Our Yen family was in the wrong first. If he is willing to forgive us, we have no reason not to agree. As for Ling, she only has herself to blame. Even if she dies in the hands of the other party, she can't blame anyone else. Moreover, you have also seen the other party's strength. The Yen clan's first elder nonchalantly said. Chapter 1377, Sneak Away, 3. Could it be that you're afraid of the other party's strength? The first elder of the Hong clan was surprised. Although the other party was most likely from the divine realm, it was not as if the two clans did not have any backers in the divine realm. He could not understand why the Yen clan would be afraid of the other party's strength. Of course not. I've said it before. We owe them a debt of gratitude. The Yen clan's first elder said in a light voice. What kind of favor? The first elder of the Hong family asked, unwilling to give up. Please forgive me for not being able to comment. First elder Hong, we only need to talk about the compensation. You don't need to worry about anything else. The Yen clan's first elder did not want to talk about this issue anymore, so he directly said. As for compensation, the first elder of the Hong family had only said a few words before he was interrupted again. Not a single cent less. The Yen clan's first elder reminded with a smile. He was in a good mood. Great Elder Yen, don't push me too far. If you push me too far, I'll invite the people from the main family of the divine world. Let's see what you'll do then. Seeing that the soft approach didn't work, the Hong family's first elder could only use the hard approach. Hee. Is first elder Hong threatening me? I'm so scared. Yen tribe's first elder pretended to be afraid and then snorted, You know to ask the main family to support you, but do you think I don't know? Originally, I didn't want to alarm the main family, but if you want the main family to know that we've caused such a ruckus, then you can go ahead and invite them. Although the Yen clan had a main family in the divine world, the main family was still the main family. Other than the fact that they had to hand over a certain amount of items to the main family every 100 years in exchange for resources that were not available on the divine continent, they were basically self-sufficient. If they provoked a strong enemy, not only would the main family not stand up for them, but they might even abandon them. This was one of the main reasons why they were kind to others and were unwilling to make enemies. Although the great elder of the Hong family had used the main family in the divine realm to threaten them, he believed that the Hong family in the divine realm would not easily meddle in the affairs of their branches. Unless there were enough benefits, the people of the main family might still be willing to stand up for them. However, the appetites of the people of the main family would definitely not be less than them. Therefore, he believed that as long as the great elder of the Hong family was not stupid, he would not be willing to disturb the main family. The truth was just as the Yen clan's first elder had expected. The Hong clan's first elder was indeed unwilling to alert the main clan because of this matter. The reason he had brought the main clan out was just to scare the other party. However, the Yen clan's first elder did not fall for it. This made him extremely depressed. Seeing that the Hong clan's first elder was silent for a long time, the Yen clan's first elder slowly opened his mouth and said, "First elder Hong, I know that you feel that we're asking for too much and that your heart is aching. However, you didn't even think about it. If we take these things away, the debt between us will be settled. In the future, as long as your Hong clan doesn't take the initiative to provoke us, our Yen clan will naturally not provoke you. But if you let the main family know about this, the benefits of them standing up for you will not be less than the compensation we want. Moreover, can you guarantee that they will be satisfied just once? The main family's appetites are much bigger than ours. This time, in order to treat the family head's injury, I don't know how many good things I've sent to the main family. Until now, there has been no news from the main family. If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid that all the things I've sent have gone to waste. Do you want to be like me? I think it's better for us to solve this matter ourselves. Our Yen family spent a lot of money to treat Master's injury, and you were the one who caused it, so you can't deny the compensation. If you think that it's not a loss to invite the main family to deal with us, then I have nothing to say. Goodbye. If you've made up your mind, then come and find me." The Yen clan's first elder said earnestly, and then left without looking back. Looking at Yen clan's first elder's back, and then at the silent first elder, Elder Shan couldn't help but say, "First elder, what do we do now?" P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov L, COM, Elder Shan, what's your opinion? The first elder of the Hong family had no one to discuss with, so he asked Elder Shan. Elder Shan was extremely excited when he heard first elder's question. The great elder actually asked for his opinion. This was really like the sun rising from the west. One should know that in the eyes of the Hong family's master and the elders, he was a brainless person. Therefore, they would not discuss anything important with him. However, he did not expect that the great elder, who had always looked down on him, would actually ask for his opinion. He was so excited that he was speechless. "Elder Shan, what's your opinion?" Seeing that Elder Shan's face had turned red and he did not speak for a long time, the great elder could not help but repeat loudly. In his heart, he was scolding him. What a shameful thing. He asked him for his opinion, but he could not say a word for a long time. He was very angry, so he naturally did not think that Elder Shan was so excited that he could not speak. "Arg! The great elder! You should ask for my opinion." Elder Shan, who had finally reacted, said in a daze. "Nonsense, I'm asking you, of course." The first elder of the Hong family said in an unpleasant tone. "Great elder. I feel that the old man from the Yen clan's words aren't without reason. The main clan is indeed a bottomless hole that can't be filled. Unless you decide not to care about the life and death of the clan head and the others, we can't not pay this compensation. First elder, money is just a worldly possession. As long as the family head and the others are safe and sound, what's the big deal with losing some money? After 100 years or so, our Hong family will be able to recover its strength. However, if we really invite the main family, I really don't dare to imagine what kind of consequences that would be. Of course, if you are like the family head and have the intention of destroying the Yen family, then please ask the main family to send someone over." Elder Shan thought for a moment before speaking in a very serious manner. His words made the first elder of Hong family, who had always looked down on him, cast a sidelong glance at him. Suddenly, the first elder looked at Elder Shan in a different way, because he had never dreamed that Elder Shan could say such philosophical words. It was really beyond his expectation. Seeing that the great elder had not spoken for a long time and only stared at him, Elder Shan was a little afraid. Did he say something wrong, so the great elder was a little angry? Sob. He was just spouting nonsense. At the thought of this, Elder Shan pulled a long face and said with some fear, "Great elder, don't be angry. I'm just talking nonsense. Just treat it as my words are farts." Chapter 1378, Sneak Away, 4, Nonsense. How could this be considered nonsense? Elder Shan. You're right, AI. If the head of the family could think like you, our relationship with the Hong family wouldn't be in this state. The first elder of the Hong family sighed. However, his praise was like a bolt of lightning to Elder Shan, who was struck dumb. Seeing that Elder Shan had once again fallen into a daze, the first elder of the Hong family helplessly shook his head and turned to leave. Elder Shan remained standing in his original spot in a daze, muttering to himself, "First elder actually praised me. Woo, I'm so happy." At this moment, the Yen family's first elder, who had left the guest courtyard where the Hong family lived, came to Liuxiang residence with a pounding heart. The moment he entered the courtyard, he saw Ling Ruoxue and the rest sitting there. When she saw him, Ling Ruoxue smiled and asked, "Why is Yen tribe's first elder here?" "Miss Ling, I have something to discuss with you," the Yen clan's first elder said with some difficulty. Then, he repeated the conversation he had with the Hong clan's first elder to Ling Ruoxue and the rest. Ling Ruoxue was silent for a moment before she slowly opened her mouth. "What is the status of the Hong clan in the divine realm?" Although the Hong clan cannot be considered as a top-notch clan in the divine realm, it is still a first-rate clan. Its strength is slightly stronger than the main clan of our Yen clan. The Yen clan's first elder explained. Isn't the Yen clan a dark clan? The strength on the surface might not be comparable to the Hong family, but if you add the strength in the dark, it should not be inferior to the Hong family. Ling Ruoxue asked with a smile. Ah. How does Miss Ling know that our Yen clan is a dark clan? The Yen clan's first elder's face was filled with surprise. It seemed that this person already knew the Yen clan's background like the back of his hand. In reality, he was overthinking things. Other than knowing that the Yen family was a dark family, Ling Ruoxue didn't know much about the Yen family's situation. However, Ling Ruoxue naturally wouldn't tell him the truth. She only smiled and said, "I naturally have my own channels." Ah. The Yen clan's first elder understood that Ling Ruoxue had no intention of telling him. Hence, he tactfully did not pursue the matter. "Young Lady Ling, if the Hong family really found someone from the main family, how should we deal with them?" The Yen clan's first elder added. Instead of seeking help from the main clan, he would rather seek help from Ling Ruoxue and the others. From his point of view, Ling Ruoxue was much easier to talk to than the main clan. Furthermore, they were allies on the same vine. Well, deal with whatever comes our way. Even if the Hong family managed to get the help of the main family might not send too many experts. Furthermore, the people from the divine world can only display the strength of a high-level deity on the divine mainland. What are you afraid of? Ling Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Ah. That may be the case, but even if the people of the divine realm can only display the strength of a high-level deity, they are still not someone we can deal with. They don't even need to make a move, just a pressure from them is enough to make us unable to withstand it. The Yen clan's first elder couldn't help but ask. First Elder Hong won't ask their main family to do it, so you can rest assured. After Ling Ruoxue heard the Yen clan's first elder's words, she laughed indifferently. That old man was quite shrewd. If he knew what was best for him, why would he do such a stupid thing? P.L.S. read on MYB0's novel, com. Since Miss Ling is so confident, then I can rest assured. Yen clan's first elder said. After he finished speaking, he exchanged pleasantries with Ling Ruoxue and the rest for a while before he stood up and bade farewell. After the Yan clan's first elder left, Yuqing looked at Ling Ruoxue and asked curiously, "Miss, the Hong family really won't ask their main family to make a move?" The first elder of the Hong clan will definitely not be invited. As for the others, it's hard to say. However, after the Hong clan has compensated the Yan clan with the items they requested, I'm afraid that the Hong clan won't have the chance to ask the main clan for help. Ling Ruoxue said. During the few days she had stayed at the Hong family, she had basically asked Green Vessel to find out what good things the Hong family had. Otherwise, she would not have written such a list. It was obvious that she wanted to extort the Hong family. Oh. Hee hee. Even if the Hong family has invited the main family, we're not afraid. It's a good opportunity to exercise. Yuqing said with a smirk. We just need to wait and see. Ling Ruoxue nodded. The next day, the Hong clan's first elder personally went to find the Yan clan's first elder and said that he was willing to compensate according to the list. However, it would take a few days before the items could be delivered to the Yan clan. The first elder of the Yan family expressed his understanding after hearing this. However, he also made it clear that the Hong family would return to the Zhao family in one piece when the Hong family had prepared everything. 3 days later, the Hong family had finally prepared all the things they wanted to compensate. In the living room of the Yan residence, the Yan clan's first elder was extremely pleased to see the Hong clan's first elder hand over the storage ring to him with a pained expression. However, as the saying goes, blood brothers settle accounts clearly. Therefore, he still had to compare the contents of the list one by one. Seeing that the first elder of the Yan clan was actually checking them one by one, the mouths of the Hong clan members twitched. Many of them were cursing in their hearts. Was there a need to check so carefully? Could it be that their Hong family would lack something from them? After a long time, the Yan clan's first elder finally finished his inspection, and he beamed at the Hong clan's first elder. Yes, everything is not missing. Since there's nothing wrong with the item, then let him go. The first elder of the Hong family twitched his mouth and said helplessly. Second elder, go to the prison and get him. The Yan clan's first elder nodded and instructed the second elder sitting beside him. All right, he said. The second elder of the Yan clan nodded and then left the living room. Not long after, the second elder of the Yan clan brought in the locked-up master of the Hong clan and the others. Everyone from the Hong family was excited when they saw their first elder. The master of the Hong family was about to say something to the first elder, but the first elder didn't even look at him. He stood up and ordered Elder Shan to take the master and the others away. However, before he could leave, he was stopped by the Yan clan's first elder. What else do you have to say? The first elder of the Hong family said in an unpleasant tone. First elder Hong, calm down. I know you're not in a good mood, but there's something I think you should know. The Yan clan's first elder said indifferently. Chapter 1379, Sneak Away, 5, What is it? The first elder of the Hong family was puzzled. Hadn't he already paid the compensation? What else is there? It's about the scandal between the two of us. The Yan clan's first elder calmly said. Didn't I say that this has nothing to do with me? The first elder of the Hong family roared in anger. Fuck, why did he want to blame everything on him? It's not related to you, but it's related to your Hong family. The Yan clan's first elder said with a smile that was not a smile. His gaze then drifted over to Elder Shan, who was standing beside the Hong clan's first elder. Originally, when he heard the Yan clan's first elder's words, Elder Shan's heart was already beating with fear. Now that he received the other party's gaze, his heart began to beat irregularly and madly. Woo! Wasn't the matter already resolved? The Yan clan had also gotten what they wanted, so why did they still mention this matter? He did it on purpose. That old man from the Yan clan was definitely doing this on purpose. He couldn't help but curse in his heart, and subconsciously lowered his head. Who is it related to? The first elder of the Hong family said angrily. He dared to say that he was the submissive, he really didn't want to live. If he knew who this person was, he would definitely skin him alive. He thought to himself with hatred. This person is far away but right in front of you. He's Elder Shan, who's beside you, the Yen clan's first elder said with a kind smile. It's you. After hearing the Yen clan's first elder's words, the Hong clan's first elder turned to glare at Elder Shan and questioned angrily, "Fuck." He did not expect that the person who claimed to be the receiver would be Elder Shan. Initially, he had a slight change of opinion of Elder Shan. However, because of this, Elder Shan's opinion of him had returned to its original state. "Great Elder, I'm innocent," Elder Shan said with a pitiful and bitter face. "First Elder Hong, you only need to ask Elder Shan's trusted aide and you'll know if he's innocent or not," Yen tribe's first elder suggested, and his words made Elder Shan gnash his teeth in hatred. "Humph. I'll settle the score with you when we get back," the first elder of the Hong clan angrily said. After he finished speaking, he left the Yen residence's living room without looking back and directly walked out of the courtyard. "First elder, listen to me." Elder Shan chased after him with a look of fear. Seeing this, the other members of the Hong family quickly followed. They didn't want to come to the Yen residence anymore. After the Hong family left, the second elder of the Yen family looked at his first elder with a puzzled expression and said, "First elder, Elder Shan ordered people to spread those rumors. Why did you let him off just like that?" "What else can I do? The Hong family just bled a lot. Do you think you can still squeeze any profit out of them? Moreover, that old thing from the Hong family won't let him off easily," the Yen clan's first elder said in understanding. Although he was rumored to have an affair with the Hong clan's first elder, fortunately, he was not said to be the submissive. Otherwise, he would definitely not let Elder Shan off. Now, he would leave Elder Shan to first Elder Hong to deal with. P.L.'s read on MYB Zero's novel, com, That's true. The second elder of Yen tribe nodded. Then, the Yen clan's first elder stood up and walked towards the main courtyard where the clan head was. After finding the clan head, the two of them went to Liuxiang residence where Ling Ruoxue and the others were. As she looked at the two middle-aged men walking in hand, Ling Ruoxue was very clear that the one she had not seen before was the patriarch of the Yen clan. "Miss Ling, this is our master," the great elder explained. After a few days of closed-door cultivation, the patriarch had made a breakthrough. His strength was now at the advanced level of the advanced deity stage, which was considered one of the top in the divine mainland. Therefore, the Yen clan naturally had no need to fear the great elder's strength. "Congratulations to Yen family head for recovering from your injuries and even achieving a breakthrough," Ling Ruoxue said courteously. "Hee. This was all thanks to Miss Ling's cold frost pill. Otherwise, I would still be lying in bed now. Our Yen clan has been too slow in this period of time," the Yen clan head said apologetically after expressing his gratitude. When he saw Ling Ruoxue and the rest, he finally understood what it meant by, "Hearing is false, seeing is believing." It was true that one's reputation was not as good as seeing in person. His second son and great elder's description simply couldn't express the shock he felt when he first met these people. How could his blind eldest son and granddaughter provoke such people? Fortunately, their Yen family was tactful and didn't reject the other party's conditions. Otherwise, the consequences would really be unimaginable. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Yen family head is too polite. Although our fate originated from hatred, now we are all happy. Your Yen family knows how to conduct itself, so I naturally won't take out my anger on you for Yen Ling heir's matter," Ling Ruoxue promised. As for whether or not the Yen clan would have any enmity with her, that was not within her jurisdiction. However, she believed that as long as the Yen clan wasn't stupid, they wouldn't hold a grudge against her just because of Yen Ling, her. If that was the case, they wouldn't be willing to sacrifice Yen Ling in order to have a good relationship with them. Hee. I know that Miss Ling is a forthright person, and Ling can be considered to have brought this upon herself, so she can't blame anyone else. I really hope to be friends with Miss Ling. The Yen clan head immediately expressed his attitude. At the same time, he took the initiative to hand over the compensation that Ling Ruoxue had requested. Miss Ling, the compensation you want is all inside. Please take a look. The patriarch of the Yen clan said. I trust the Yen clan's credibility. Ling Ruoxue received the storage ring from the Yen clan's clan head. Without even looking at it, she passed it to Ziyu for safekeeping. Miss Ling, Yen Kun, the city lord of Yenbei City, and I are considered good friends despite our age difference. I wonder who you are with him, the Yen family head asked curiously. However, he did not finish his sentence and looked at Ling Ruoxue with anticipation. We are neighbors. Ling Ruoxue said indifferently. She didn't really want others to know about her relationship with Yen Kun. Therefore, even though her words weren't completely true, they could still be considered true. After all, Nightmare Forest and Northern Yen City were indeed neighbors. Then may I know which city young miss is from? The Yen clan head asked again. He knew that there were 4 small cities closest to Northern Yen City. Since this Miss Ling said that she was a neighbor of Northern Yen City, then the city she lived in should be one of the 4 cities. He secretly guessed. I live in the Nightmare Forest, Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. Ah! The Yen clan master and the great elder let out a cry of surprise at the same time. They all thought to themselves, did they hear wrong? Miss Ling said that she was living in the Nightmare Forest? Wasn't that place occupied by someone a few years ago? It was said that the person who claimed that place was very powerful, and even the Ning family, the leader of the 8 great divine regions, recognized their status. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to provoke the new master of the Nightmare Forest. However, the Yen family had always liked to keep a low profile, so they did not go there with the other forces at that time. Naturally, they did not know what had happened there and why many forces had kept quiet about it since then. However, the new master of the forest was not easy to provoke. Words like these were still widely spread across the divine continent. Miss Ling, is that your territory? The Yen clan head asked. Yes, I am. Ling Ruoxue nodded her head, not denying it. This old master truly admires you for daring to set up your own territory there. The Yen clan's first elder's eyes lit up as if he had just seen his idol. One must know that not just anyone could occupy that place. For so many years, many forces had coveted that place. However, no one had managed to occupy it. As for Ling Ruoxue, she was able to gain the recognition of all the forces. From this, it could be seen that her methods were not ordinary. AI. Fortunately, he did not vent his anger on the entire Yen family because of Ling, and her father. Otherwise, the Yen family would not be able to withstand his anger. After knowing the identities of Ling Ruoxue and the others, the Yen clan head and first elder were even more determined to befriend them. Hence, they were even more concerned about their well-being. Ling Ruoxue and the others, who had planned to leave, had no choice but to stay in the Yen residence for a few more days at the warm invitation of the Yen family head. However, they could not stand the excessive hospitality and enthusiasm of the Yen family head and great elder, so they took advantage of the night and quietly left. Chapter 1380, Yen Ling, Heir's Revenge, 1. After Ling Ruoxue and the rest left the Yen residence, they traveled through the night and only found an empty spot in the outskirts to rest the next evening. After setting up the tent, Yin Xiao, who had left with them, walked over to Ling Ruoxue and the demon and sat down beside them. He could not help but ask curiously, Shui, where are you planning to go? Let's go home. Ling Ruoxue said with a faint smile. They had come down the mountain to say hello to Yen Kun before going into closed-door cultivation. Who knew that it would involve so many things? Now that she thought about it, she felt that it was a little unbelievable. Big brother Yin, where do you plan to go? Ling Ruoxue asked after she finished speaking. We're free to do as we please. We're here to gain experience anyway. Of course, well, go wherever it's fun or dangerous. Yin Xiao said with a smile. Oh. Why don't you come to our house for a few days, Big Brother Ian. We're staying in the Nightmare Forest. It can definitely satisfy all of Brother Ian's requests. Ling Ruoxue invited with a smile. Alright. Shua, since you've invited me so sincerely, I won't be polite. Ian Xiao said happily, hee. He was just thinking about how to spend more time with them. Now that he was given this opportunity, he naturally wouldn't let it go. You should be more polite. Actually, Shua, was just casually asking. He couldn't bear to see Ian Xiao's proud evildoer and spoke with a straight face. Ha ha ha. You're not cute at all. I think no woman in this world would like you except for Shua, Ian Xiao laughed. Other than Shua, I don't need any other woman to like me. The demon said disapprovingly. Young master. You're wrong. After hearing their talk, Uncle Zhong corrected them seriously. That's not right. Ian Xiao's handsome face was filled with confusion. There are many women who like young Master Yi. Aren't the daughters of the Yan and Hong families the same? Uncle Zhong said. Hee, Uncle Zhong is right. However, those women only like him because of his looks. If they know that he's not attractive, they will definitely not like him. Ian Xiao looked at the demon and said. I'll still say the same thing. Other than Shua, I don't need anyone to like me. The demon said coldly. Although he was a little angry that the master and servant made fun of him, he was not completely angry. P.L.'s read on MYB Zero's novel, com, ha ha ha. It's done. I'll stop joking. Let me ask you, how are you going to deal with that Yan Ling? Ian Xiao knew when to stop. Hence, he did not continue the conversation before the demon was completely angry. This was also one of the reasons why he could not make Ling Ruoxue and the rest hate him. Does Big Brother Ian have any good ideas? Ling Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. When they left the Yan residence, they had also taken Yan Ling, with them. Although she had been tortured by Bai Xian and Shuang for many days, Yan Ling was still alive. This woman will be a disaster sooner or later. Why don't we just, Ian Xiao looked at Yan Ling, who was tied up like a dumpling, and made a kacha gesture. I've already handed her over to Bai Xian and Shuang to deal with. When they're done playing, they'll probably get rid of her. Ling Ruoxue said indifferently. Shua, this kind of thing should be done sooner rather than later. Otherwise, if she escapes, I'm afraid there will be endless trouble. Seeing the hatred in Yan Ling's eyes, Ian Xiao was a little worried. Big Brother Ian, don't worry. She won't be able to escape. Ling Ruoxue chuckled as she promised. Actually, even if Yan Ling ran away, she wasn't afraid, because even if that woman ran away, she wouldn't live for long. They wouldn't be able to cause any waves. That's good. However, it's better to send more people to watch her. Ian Xiao said, a little worried. Big Brother Ian, it's just a woman. You really don't have to take it to heart. Ling Ruoxue consoled. I know, but I have a bad feeling. I feel that this woman will bring us trouble. Ian Xiao said uneasily. Ever since he was young, his intuition had been very accurate, so he didn't have a good impression of Yan Ling the first time he saw her. Big Brother Ian, if there's trouble, let's just solve it. Besides, sometimes even if we don't take the initiative to cause trouble, trouble will come to us. Ling Ruoxue gave Ian Xiao a reassuring look. In short, we'd better be careful since we're bringing such trouble with us. Ian Xiao reminded. Don't worry, Big Brother Ian. She won't be able to escape. Ling Ruoxue promised once again. After dinner, everyone returned to their tents to rest. Midnight. Ling Ruoxue was woken up by Qing Ju. Unwillingly opening her eyes, Ling Ruoxue looked at Qing Ju and said, Qing Ju, what happened again? Sister. I have good news and bad news, which one do you want to hear first? Qing Ju said with a smile. As you wish. Ling Ruoxue did not think much of it. To think that the stinky green vessel would do this too. I really don't know who he learned it from, she thought helplessly. Then I'll tell you the bad news first. Qing-ju laughed evilly. Then, he cleared his throat on purpose before he slowly said, Sister. Ling ran away. Oh. Ling Ruoxue responded softly, obviously not too concerned about this matter. Sister, don't you want to know how she got away? When Qing-ju saw how calm Ling Ruoxue's reaction was, he could not help but ask, oh, his sister's reaction made him unable to continue. You say it. I'm listening. Ling Ruoxue chuckled as she looked at Qing-ju's pouting lips and dissatisfaction. That woman is really cunning. She said that she needed to go to the toilet and lied to the night watchman arranged by the Yin family. In the end, she left and never returned. Qing-ju said with a faint smile. Oh. Brother Yin and the rest must be very anxious. Stinky Qing-ju, why did you only wake me up now? Ling Ruoxue pretended to be unhappy. Sister. How can you blame me for this? You're the one who didn't wake me up. Qing-ju felt very wronged, and there were tears in his black and bright eyes. Stinky Qing-ju, stop acting. Tell me the good news. Ling Ruoxue said. Hee hee. Sister. The good news is that Ling, that annoying woman, has run away. We've finally gotten rid of her. Qing-ju said excitedly. Chapter 1381, Ling heirs revenge, 2. After hearing Qing-ju's words, Ling Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines. She could not help but say, Qing-ju, how can this be considered good news? Ling has run away, and she will definitely come back to take revenge on us. So, we are in big trouble. Sister, you can lie to outsiders, but you want to lie to me? Hee hee. Was that even possible? I know that you don't care whether Ling runs away or not, because you don't see her as trouble at all. That woman is a person who can't accomplish anything, but is good at ruining things. Qing-ju said with a look of disdain. Ah. Green vessel. Have I ever said that you're becoming more and more shrewd? Ling Ruoxue said speechlessly. In her heart, she was crying. Why couldn't she hide her thoughts from these little fellows? She was so depressed. Hee hee. Big sister has raised you well. Qing-ju said humbly and pushed all the credit to Ling Ruoxue. Are you complimenting your sister? Ling Ruoxue felt helpless and aggrieved. When had she ever groomed them? They had clearly comprehended it on their own, all right? Mmh. Big sister, you guys should hurry up and leave. That brother Yin's subordinate has lost her and he's very anxious. Qing-ju reminded. Okay, then we'll go out. After Ling Ruoxue finished speaking, she brought the evildoer out of the bracelet. Just as he walked out of the tent, Yin Xiao came up to him with an ashamed expression. Shua. I'm sorry. It's all my people's fault for not doing their job well and actually letting Ling run away. Yin Xiao's face was filled with guilt. He then instructed Uncle Zhong to bring the 2 night watchmen who were tied up to Ling Ruoxue and said, Shua, the 2 of them have failed in their duties. I'm handing them over to you now. You can do whatever you want with them. Big brother Yin. What are you doing? Although they are responsible for Ling heir's escape, you can't blame them completely. Uncle Zhong, let them go. Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. Shua, this isn't just because they didn't do their job properly. It's also because they're soft-hearted. So, no matter what happens to them, they asked for it. You don't have to spare them on my account. Yin Xiao said bluntly. He was extremely angry at his subordinates' failure to live up to expectations because he realized that all the education he had given them had been in vain. He was afraid that if this happened once, there would be a second time. Those who were soft-hearted to their enemies would not live long in the divine world. Therefore, he would rather let Ling Ruoxue deal with these 2 people. It was better than them dying in the hands of others. Big brother Yin, Most men have tender feelings for women, so it's understandable for them to be soft-hearted towards Yan Ling. However, this kind of thing really cannot happen again and again. They are all your people, so it's better for you to punish them. I believe that after this incident, they should not dare to commit the same mistake again. Ling Ruoxue said indifferently. All right then. Uncle Zhong. I'll remember their mistakes first, and punish them after I return to the divine world. Seeing that Ling Ruoxue was unwilling to punish them, Yin Xiao had no choice but to keep the two of them in his hands. Yes. Young master. Yes, master. Uncle Zhong replied and then took the two night watchmen away. After Uncle Zhong had left with the two men, Ling Ruoxue asked, Big brother Yin, how long has Yan Ling been running? PLs read on MYB0's Novel, COM, it's been almost an hour. I've already sent people to chase after them. Yin Xiao said, a little embarrassed. Big brother Yin, let your people come back. There's no need to chase. Ling Ruoxue chuckled as she spoke to Yin Xiao. Ah. Yan Ling is injured and shouldn't have run far. If we don't catch her, I'm afraid there will be endless trouble in the future. Yin Xiao said worriedly. He had just talked about Yan Ling with Ling Ruoxue and the others in the evening, and it had come true that night. This made him feel helpless, and he felt like he was a jinx. The good things didn't come true, and the bad things came true. Brother Yin, it's just Yan Ling She can't cause any big waves. Don't worry. Ling Ruoxue smiled faintly, as if she was confident. All right then. With that, Yin Xiao shot a red flare into the sky. This was used by the Yin family to contact their clansmen, and only the Yin family knew what this red flare represented. Not long after, the subordinates that Yin Xiao had sent out to find Yan Ling slowly returned to the group. However, none of them were in the mood to sleep at the moment. Instead, they sat together in groups of 3 to 5 and started chatting. Shua, where do you think Yan Ling will go? I even specially sent people to chase after them on the road back to the Yan residence, but they didn't even see a shadow. Yin Xiao's face was gloomy. Seeing his subordinates return empty-handed, it was impossible for him not to be disappointed. She won't return to the Yan family, and the Yan family won't accept her again. Ling Ruoxue said. Then should we send the news of Yan Ling's escape back to the Yan family? Yin Xiao asked. Yes, of course. Ling Ruoxue laughed evilly. I'll arrange for someone to deliver the letter to the Yan residence now. When Yin Xiao heard Ling Ruoxue's words, he quickly replied. No need, big brother Yin. I've already made the arrangements. The Yan family should know about this by tomorrow morning. Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. Ah. Shua, you're really fast, how come I didn't see you telling your subordinates to leave? Yin Xiao's handsome face was filled with question marks. It's not a human who's going to deliver the letter, it's my beastie. Ling Ruoxue explained with a smile. After knowing that Yan Ling had gone missing, she had arranged for a little phoenix to leave this place invisibly and deliver a letter to the Yan clan. No wonder. Shua, let's leave this place tomorrow morning. Yin Xiao said. Yan Ling has run away, so this place is no longer safe. Big brother Yin, in this case, it is even more impossible for us to leave. If my guess is correct, the first thing that Yan Ling would do after escaping would definitely be to find someone to deal with us. Therefore, we only need to wait here for the rabbit. This is also the main reason why I did not allow you to continue sending people to chase after her. It is really unnecessary. She will return. Ling Ruoxue said with absolute certainty. Shua, since that's the case, let's take early precautions. After listening to Ling Ruoxue's words, Yin Xiao understood what she meant. However, they were in the open, while Yan Ling was hiding in the dark. They didn't know the other party's situation, but the enemy knew their background. Therefore, the situation was not in their favor. Chapter 1382, Yan Ling, Heir's Revenge, 3, Good. Big Brother Ian, you don't have to be too worried. Do what you need to do and don't take this matter to heart. Ling Ruoxue reminded. Yes, it'll make them pay 120% attention and not let them make any more mistakes. Yin Xiao promised. Big Brother Ian, this really isn't a big deal. All of you should go back and have a good rest. We'll only be able to deal with the enemy better if we rest our spirits. Ling Ruoxue didn't wish for the Yin family to be restless because of this matter. That would go against her original intentions. Shua, you guys go rest. I'll personally keep watch tonight. Yin Xiao said stubbornly. All right then. Ling Ruoxue knew that Yin Xiao still felt a little apologetic because of Yan Ling Er's escape, so she didn't force him. She stood up and returned to the tent with the demon. 2 days later, the Yan clan's first elder personally led a team to meet up with Ling Ruoxue and the rest. Looking at the uninvited guests from the Yan residence, Ling Ruoxue felt a headache coming on. Great Elder Yan, why have you come? In fact, the reason she sent someone to deliver the letter was not to let the Yan clan send someone. Who knew that it would actually be the first elder who personally brought people over? We're here to help you find the fugitive. The great elder of the Yan clan replied matter-of-factly. He had discussed with the clan head for half a day, and the final decision was to send someone to help Ling Ruoxue find Yan Ling Er. After all, although Yan Ling Er had already been removed from the Yan clan and was no longer considered a member of the Yan clan, if her escape brought any unnecessary trouble to Ling Ruoxue and the others, the Yan clan might also benefit from it. This was not what they wanted. Who asked the Yan clan to be determined to be on good terms with Ling Ruoxue and the others? Hence, this was the best time for them to express their feelings. Then I'll thank Great Elder Yan first. Ling Ruoxue said helplessly. In her heart, she was secretly resenting the little phoenix that she had sent to deliver the letter. After hearing Ling Ruoxue's thoughts, the little phoenix transmitted a message in an aggrieved manner. Master, this has nothing to do with me. I'm just a little bird that doesn't dare to show its face. I'm helpless when they follow me. I don't know why I just can't get rid of them. They're sticking to me, woo. As he said that, little phoenix even started to cry. All right. Don't cry, I'm not blaming you. When Ling Ruoxue saw the little phoenix's sparkling tears, she quickly coaxed, sigh. A child would always be a child. If it wasn't for the fact that all the adult phoenixes were in seclusion, she wouldn't have sent this young fellow to deliver the letter. How could this innocent little thing be the match of those old foxes? After comforting the crying little phoenix in the bracelet, Ling Ruoxue smiled and said to the Great Elder, since Great Elder Yan is here, let's set up camp here together. Ah. Aren't you looking for Yan Ling Er? Yan tribe's first elder said in a daze. P.L.'s read on MYB0's novel, COM, Brother Ian sent people to look for her, but they couldn't find her. That's why we decided to set up camp here and leave after we found Yan Ling Er. Ling Ruoxue explained softly. Even though the Yan family's patriarch and first elder were very friendly, she would not completely trust them, and would not reveal her entire plan to them without holding back. Oh. Since that's the case, I'll send the Yan family to look for him as well. Yan tribe's first elder did not doubt his words. Big Brother Ian, since Great Elder Yan is willing to help, then let his people go with you to find Yan Ling Er. Ling Ruoxue smiled as she spoke to Yin Xiao, while secretly giving him a look. All right. Yin Xiao quickly replied. However, if so many people go out together, everyone won't have time to rest. It's better to divide into a few small teams and change shifts to look for Yan Ling Er's whereabouts. He suggested. His suggestion was quickly approved by Ling Ruoxue and the Yan clan's great elder. Then, in order to facilitate their cooperation, Yin Xiao and the Yan clan's great elder decided to split their forces into 3 teams and split into 3 groups to search for Yan Ling Er. After searching for a few days, he couldn't even find a single strand of Yan Ling Er's hair. Yin Xiao sat by the fire and chatted with the Yan clan's great elder. Without realizing it, the topic had turned to Yan Ling Er. Yin Xiao smiled and asked, Great Elder Yen, could Yen Ling have already run back to the Yen clan? After all, this place isn't too far from the Yen residence. Impossible. Even if she returns to Yen City, no one would dare to take her in. She has already been kicked out of the family tree by the Yen clan. If anyone in Yen City takes her in, it would be our Yen clan's doing. Not to mention, before I came here, I also told the city guards that if they see Yen Ling, they should immediately capture her and not let her enter the city. The Yen clan's great elder said very seriously, afraid that Yin Xiao would suspect that they had hidden Yen Ling, Hee hee. I'm just asking, Great Elder Yen doesn't need to be so serious. Yin Xiao said with a satisfied smile. Hee hee. I'm just telling the truth. Great Elder Yen also laughed, and couldn't help but secretly think, can you not be serious? He didn't want to be misunderstood by these people. In fact, since the day Yen Ling, was expelled from the Yen family, her life and death had nothing to do with the Yen family. However, after she ran away, he also felt a headache because with Yen Ling Heir's character, it was very likely that she hated the Yen family. Therefore, he had brought people out to look for Yen Ling Heir's whereabouts. Are you guys talking about me? At this time, a slightly mocking voice rang in their ears. Yin Xiao and the Yen clan's great elder raised their heads at the same time, just in time to see Yen Ling, standing not far away from them with a smug look on her face. The two looked at each other, but neither of them spoke first. Are you surprised to see me? I didn't expect you to still be here. That's good. It saves me the trouble of looking for you guys. Yen Ling said with a proud smile. Yin Xiao and the Yen clan's great elder still didn't say anything. However, the two of them were thinking to themselves that Yen Ling must have something to rely on since she was so bold to return here. Sure enough, just as they had expected, the next second, they saw the head of the Hong family appear beside Yen Ling, The two of them even looked very intimate. Great Elder Yen, it looks like this traitor of your family has joined the Hong family. Yin Xiao laughed when he saw this. Yup. I didn't expect that either. Great Elder Yen said, suppressing the anger in his heart. Chapter 1383, Yen Ling Heir's Revenge, 4. Could it be that she brought the Hong family here to kill us? Yin Xiao asked, feigning curiosity. It should be. The Yen clan's first elder gritted his teeth. Hee hee. You treated Ling, like this, so isn't it only right for her to come and take revenge? Hearing the conversation between the two of them, the master of the Hong family beside Yen Ling, spoke. Master Hong, may I know who you are to say this? Yin Xiao ignored the smug Yen Ling, and directly asked the Hong family head. I am now Ling Heir's husband. The head of the Hong family said with a smile. What's wrong? You're taking a step back. Haven't you always been interested in Shui? Yin Xiao provoked her on purpose. Who did you say was second? When Yen Ling heard Yin Xiao's words, she roared in anger. Damn it, the last thing she wanted to hear right now was that woman's name. She hated Ling Ruoxue to death. She would never forget the torture that Stinky Fox and that handsome man had inflicted on her. During that period of time, she was better off dead than alive. Fortunately, she had pulled through it and now had the strength to take revenge. However, the most unfortunate thing was that she could not kill Ling Ruoxue with her own hands. This would definitely be the greatest regret of her life. Of course it's you. Yin Xiao said with a smile. Then, he couldn't help but ask curiously, since Master Hong is so confident in avenging Miss Yen, you must have something to rely on. May I know who you have found? Why don't you come out and broaden our horizons? Yin Xiao's divine sense could sense the surroundings of their campsite. Other than the head of the Hong family and Yen Ling, there were many other troops lying in ambush. Although he couldn't tell their exact number, judging from their auras, they shouldn't be weak. It seemed like the head of the Hong family was determined to win this battle. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought so many people. Furthermore, the strength of these people was obviously not from the godly continent. Don't worry. I'll let you know. The head of the Hong family said with a smile. Then, he started to look around. After searching for a while, he did not see the person he was looking for. He could not help but feel disappointed. Master Hong, are you looking for us? Suddenly, Ling Ruoxu's voice rang in everyone's ears. Following that, they saw a few handsome men and women walking out of the largest tent, as well as a snow-white fox. When Master Hong and Yen Ling, saw Ling Ruoxu and the others, their hearts were completely different. Yen Ling was filled with hatred, but Master Hong was reluctant to part with them. Master Hong's eyes were fixed on the devastatingly beautiful Ling Ruoxu. He didn't look away until Yen Ling, pinched him in anger. He then regained his senses and tried his best to hide his loss of self-control. He said coldly, Miss Ling, I didn't expect to see you again. Let's settle the old and new scores together today. Hearing Master Hong's words, Ling Ruoxu raised her eyebrows and asked curiously, Master Hong, I know that there are old scores between us. What is this new one? P.L.'s read on MYB Zero's Novel, com, the new one. Yen Ling said loudly. You? There's no new score between us. Ling Ruoxu laughed nonchalantly, obviously not taking their words to heart. Master Hong, does the first elder of the Hong family know that you've come to seek revenge? Ling Ruoxu asked again. That old thing is old, and his mind is not clear. That's why he gave so much compensation. He's no longer the first elder of the Hong family. The head of the Hong family said proudly. With the support of the people he had found, the great elder of the Hong family could do nothing to him. Not only that, he had even imprisoned the great elder. If there were no accidents, the great elder would probably have to stay in his own courtyard in the future. It would be a dream for him to come out and do anything. It seems like someone is supporting Master Hong. Ling Ruoxu understood. Not bad. It's because of our support that Master Hong is able to show off his skills, He was just a great elder, yet he dared to ride on the head of the family head and act like a tyrant. This is preposterous. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice rang out. Following that, a few dozen tall and burly men walked out from the dark. The person in the lead was of unknown age. He had a full beard and his body was exceptionally tall and strong. His eyes were filled with a bright light. When he saw Ling Ruoxu, he revealed a lecherous glint and could not help but praise her in his heart. What a stunning beauty! The boy from the Hong family did not lie to him. The man's gaze made the evildoer extremely unhappy. Killing intent rose in his heart. In his eyes, these people were already dead. No. Even if they died, he would not let go of those who dared to have designs on Shui. This also meant that these people were destined to have a tragic end. Chapter 1384, Ants, 1, Who are you? Ling Ruoxu squinted her beautiful eyes and asked indifferently. We're from the main Hong clan of the Divine Realm. The man in the lead said with a slight smugness. In his heart, he couldn't help but think, Their identities would definitely give them a shock. Even though they could only use the strength of a high-level deity on the Divine Mainland, wasn't it as easy as killing a chicken to deal with a few people from the Divine Mainland? Oh. I didn't think that the Hong family would be able to afford to hire you. From what I know, the Hong family probably can't afford to pay you too well. Ling Ruoxu chuckled and said. Since these people were invited by the head of the Hong family, they must have their own motives. However, what she could not understand was what else was there in the Hong family that was worth it for these people. Who said that? I'm very satisfied with the reward he paid this time, Because the reward he's paying is you. The man in the lead laughed as he stared at Ling Ruoxu with a determined look in his eyes. It's me. However, I don't belong to the Hong clan. What right does he have to treat me as a reward? When Ling Ruoxu heard the man's words, she didn't feel angry. On the contrary, she felt that this was too funny. Someone actually wanted to use her as a reward? Wasn't this an empty promise? It wasn't that easy to get her reward. Ha ha ha. As long as I capture you, you'll be mine. Isn't it obvious? The leader said matter-of-factly, completely unaware that his words had already provoked a certain someone's displeasure, and that a certain someone had already secretly decided that even if this man died, he would not let him off. You're that confident in yourself? Do you think the people you've brought can deal with all of us? Ling Ruoxue was speechless. She sighed in her heart. Even if you're from the divine realm, there's no need to be so arrogant. One had to know that the consequences of being too proud would be very miserable, and underestimating the enemy was a fatal taboo. What's wrong? Are you complaining that we have too few people? Ha ha ha. Brothers. All of you, come out and let this beauty see you. As soon as the leader's voice fell, many men in black swarmed out from all directions. Those men had a murderous look in their eyes as they stared at Ling Ruoxue and the rest with an unfriendly expression. They tried to use their aura to suppress the other party. However, to their surprise, the other party was not affected at all. They couldn't help but feel suspicious. Ling Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the group of men in black. Her beautiful face revealed a satisfied smile. There were hundreds of them, and even though most of them were at the deity level, they were more than enough to deal with the people on the godly mainland. It was no wonder that the leader was so confident. However, the subordinates he brought were able to deal with others, but it was a pity that they were facing her. That had also doomed these people to a tragedy. Beauty. See that? If you're smart enough to surrender, I might spare your lives. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The man in the lead shouted. Thank you for your good intentions, but can you allow us to discuss this? After all, surrendering is a major event. Ling Ruoxue smiled and said slowly. No. Even if you surrender, you will still die. At this time, Yan Ling roared in dissatisfaction. She had gone through a lot of trouble to persuade the head of the Hong family to invite people from the main family to take revenge. How could she let these people get away with it? She must kill these people. Since when did a woman get the right to point fingers at the Hong family? Or is it that the members of the Hong family have to listen to this woman? Ling Ruoxue ignored Yan Ling Hair's words and spoke to the leader. Little Hong, make your woman shut up. I'm here and she has no right to interrupt. After the leader heard Ling Ruoxue's words, he shouted at the Hong family's head in dissatisfaction. Yes. Yes, master. The master of the Hong family quickly replied. Then, he pulled Yan Ling and whispered a few words in her ear. Yan Ling was so scared that she didn't dare to speak anymore. Beauty, are you satisfied now? Seeing that his words were effective, the leader looked at Ling Ruoxue and said proudly. Well, I didn't expect you to have such prestige. I just don't know what your status is in the main family. Ling Ruoxue asked with an innocent look. Beauty. I'm a direct descendant of the Hong family. You won't regret following me. The man in the lead said proudly. I have no problem following you. However, I only like men who are stronger than me. If you can't defeat me, then you can only die in my hands. Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. After hearing Ling Ruoxue's words, the leader laughed even more heartily, as if he had just heard a good joke. When he was done laughing, he spoke, Beauty, I will let you know what the strongest man is. Following me is your wisest choice. Oh, really? However, if I follow you, what about the others? Can you not kill them? Ling Ruoxue asked with a face full of anticipation. Of course you can. As long as they surrender, I can spare their lives for the sake of you, Beauty. However, their life or death will be entirely up to you, Beauty. The man in the lead laughed. In other words, if Ling Ruoxue was willing to follow him, then the people around her would naturally not have to die. Otherwise, they would definitely die. Let's discuss this. I can't make this decision on my own. Ling Ruoxue said with a troubled expression. Good. Then you guys should quickly discuss it. My patience is limited. The man in the lead warned. Following that, Ling Ruoxue pulled Yin Xiao and the Yen clan's great elder to the side and started to chat with them through voice transmission. Shui, what do you plan to do? You're not really asking us to surrender, right? Yin Xiao said helplessly. Although the enemy was from the divine realm and seemed extremely powerful, he did not think much of them after seeing their strength. Even if the enemy's numbers seemed to be a little large, he believed that with Shui, and the others' devious ideas, they would not be taken seriously at all. When the Yen clan's great elder heard Yin Xiao's words, he didn't express any opinions. He only forced himself to remain calm as he looked at Ling Ruoxue. However, his heart was still beating like a drum. However, when he thought about the strength of Ling Ruoxue, Yin Xiao, and the others, his heart slowly calmed down. Of course I won, Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. Chapter 1385, Ants, 2, that's good. Yin Xiao was relieved. As a member of the Yin family from one of the 8 great divine regions, if he surrendered now, he wouldn't be able to explain himself even when he returned to the divine world. His grandfather master would definitely scold him to death. Woo! As long as he thought of that possibility, he would be afraid. Furthermore, he guessed that only Shui would be able to deal with the eccentric old man in his family. Miss Ling, I wonder what I can do for you. At this time, the Yen clan's first elder also asked via voice transmission. Hee. Great elder, you can do whatever you want later, but if you can't beat them in a one-on-one fight, then just beat them up as a group. Ling Ruoxue suggested with an evil smile. Ah. Ling Ruoxue's words caused the Yen clan's first elder to be taken aback. Immediately after, cold sweat started to flow down his face. He had not expected this young miss to actually order them to gang up on him. However, when he thought about how Ling Ruoxue and the others did not play by the rules, he did not find it strange. In fact, not only the Yen clan, but many people from the godly mainland and the entire godly realm would choose to fight one-on-one during battles. It was rare for them to fight in groups. This was not because they were noble by nature, but a habit that they had developed over the years. Therefore, when he heard Ling Ruoxue's words, he was stunned for a moment but quickly returned to normal. Oh! The other party's strength was above the Yen clan's. If the Yen clan didn't want to suffer too heavy losses, they really had to gang up on him. After thinking it through, he quickly accepted Ling Ruoxue's suggestion. From this, it could be seen that the Yen clan's first elder was a flexible and adaptable person. This kind of person usually lived longer than those who were stubborn. Looking at the Yen clan's first elder's expression, Ling Ruoxue knew that the old man had thought things through. She then reminded him, in a while, everyone should act according to the circumstances. When dealing with the enemy, we must not be soft-hearted. We must let these people know that we are not pushovers. Since we have come, we can forget about returning to the divine realm. Yes. Yin Xiao and the Yen clan's great elder nodded. Following that, Ling Ruoxue brought them to the Hong family and said with a faint smile, if we surrender, are there any benefits? There are no benefits. If you resist to the end, the only outcome is death. However, if you surrender, I can let you go. The man in the lead said in a clear voice. Since there are no benefits, we choose not to surrender. Ling Ruoxue laughed evilly. As soon as she said this, the Hong family members were all stunned. They didn't expect that in such a situation where the strong and weak were clearly distinguished, the other party would still have the thought of resisting. This made them feel very incredulous. At this time, they still didn't know the true strength of the other side, and they didn't know that there were many battle maniacs in the other side. Not knowing the true strength of the enemy had also doomed them to learn a painful lesson. You've really made the right choice. The leader was stunned for a moment before he asked in disbelief. I believe in my own choice. Ling Ruoxue said calmly. That's good. Since this is your choice, don't you regret it? After the man in the lead finished speaking, he gave his subordinates a look. In an instant, the members of the Hong family surrounded Ling Ruoxue and the others. From their posture, it was obvious that they wanted to use their advantage in numbers to launch a group attack. Are you trying to gang up on me? Ling Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. Ha ha ha. Wasn't this obvious? However, don't worry, beauty. I'll personally use my strength to conquer you. The man in the lead said. It was obvious that his target was Ling Ruoxue. However, there was someone who would not let his wishful thinking come true. If you want to use your strength to conquer Shui, you'll have to get past me first. The demon laughed coldly. Who are you? The man in the lead looked at the man who was as handsome as a demon and said with a face full of disdain. If he did not guess wrong, this person should be the pretty boy who lived off a woman that the Hong family's kid had mentioned. Oh. He did have the capital to be a pretty boy, but it was a pity that he had met him. He had never liked men who could win women's hearts with their looks alone, so this man was dead meat. I am Shui Er's man. If you want to have Shui Er, you must kill me first. Otherwise, you will be the one to die. The demon said coldly. Humph. A man who lives off a woman is actually so arrogant. Today, I'll let you see what a real man is. The man in the lead roared angrily. And when he said that he was a man who lived off a woman, Ziyu and the others were struck by lightning. When Ziyu and the others heard that man's words, they suppressed the laughter in their hearts and secretly thought to themselves, how bold must he be to dare to say that that demon is a man who lives off a woman. They could already imagine how furious the evildoer was. At the thought of this, the few of them subconsciously distanced themselves from the evildoer who was slowly emitting cold air. Even Snow Shadow did not dare to make fun of the evildoer at this moment, because it was very clear how perverted that man was. Woo! That was a fellow that could not be provoked, AI. The poor Hong family. They probably didn't know that their heads didn't belong to them anymore. Are you living off a woman? I'll let you know how powerful I am as a man who lives off a woman. The evildoer was neither angry nor annoyed as he spoke with a smile on his face. However, Ling Ruoxue, who was well aware of the evildoer's nature, knew that this was a sign that the evildoer was about to get angry. She simply did not dare to imagine what would happen to this self-righteous man from the Hong family. Humph. Then come. A beauty. Open your eyes wide and watch, I'll let you know what a real man is. The man in the lead said proudly. Then, he made the first move, and everyone saw a light blue divine power fly toward the demon. The demon looked on coldly with his arms crossed as if he was looking at a clown. He looked at the man not far away and waited for the water attribute skill to fly only a few centimeters away from him. He didn't even dodge, but let the skill hit him. When Yin Xiao and the rest saw this, they couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat for the demon. However, they were also a little puzzled. Why didn't the demon avoid the divine power? The demon who was hit by the leader's water attribute divine skill had already been enveloped by a huge water attribute divine power. The people outside did not know what was going on inside, let alone whether the demon was safe or dead. Chapter 1386, Ants, 3. A pretty boy is a pretty boy, he's really weak. With this little strength, you dare to snatch my woman, you really don't know your own strength. Seeing that he had killed the man who was living off a woman with just one move, the leader felt even more pleased with himself. However, his smugness did not last long. He saw that the huge water attribute divine power that had originally enveloped the monster's body was slowly decreasing. Then, the light blue divine power disappeared faster and faster. In a few seconds, the water attribute divine power on the monster's body disappeared. The evildoer stretched his back lazily, as if he had eaten to his heart's content, and said indifferently, "This amount of divine power is too little, give me more." Damn it. What did you just say? The leader had a look of disbelief. Fuck. Was this still considered a human? It actually devoured his divine power. How was this possible? The man really couldn't believe what he was seeing, so he could only lie to himself and conclude that this devilish pretty boy wasn't human. I said, you have too little Shin power. I'm not full. Give me more. The demon said with a face full of anticipation. You're not human. The man in the lead said angrily. He was even more certain that this person who could devour Shin power was not human, because humans could not do such a heaven-defying thing. How can you scold people? If I'm not a human, are you? The demon said with a face of dissatisfaction. Of course I'm a human. The leading man shouted. After knowing that the evildoer in front of him could devour his Shin power, he was not so sure that he could kill him. However, he knew that he could not show even a trace of fear. Otherwise, how would he be able to convince the others in the future? Oh, really? Why don't I feel like you're human? However, you're definitely not a beastie, you're worse than a beast. The demon said very seriously. Damn it. You're looking for death. The leader was furious. Just as he was about to attack again, he saw the demonic man in front of him looking at him expectantly. He immediately gave up the idea of attacking again. This guy liked to devour divine power. If he was the one making a move, wouldn't that be going along with his wishes? No, I can't fall for his trick. However, this pretty boy was so difficult to deal with. If he couldn't kill him, how could he take this beauty away? At this time, he was quite conflicted in his heart. Why did you stop? Continue. I'll be waiting. The demon's smile was pure and innocent. However, the more unthreatening his smile was, the more frightened the other party was, and the more he did not dare to attack. After waiting for a moment, the demon saw that the other party had no intention of attacking. He was slightly dissatisfied and complained, since you're not willing to make a move, I'll have to do it myself. As soon as he finished speaking, he directly attacked the man in the lead. As for the moves, naturally, it was his favorite fist. Oh! Only the feeling of punching someone with one's fist and making loud bangs would have the atmosphere of a fight. And this had always been his favorite. With a few loud bangs, the evildoer's fists drew beautiful arcs in the air and all his fists landed on the leading man. His fists were so fast that no one noticed that there were a few strands of black divine power thinner than hair in his fists. The divine power entered the leading man's body through his fists and settled down happily inside. The man in the lead had two attributes. One was the water attribute and the other was the earth attribute, which was good at defense. The Shin power of these two attributes had originally occupied half of the man's body and maintained a balance. However, the moment the black Shin power as thin as a hair entered their territory, the Shin power of the two attributes sensed it. Thus, in order to defend their territory, the Shin power of the water and earth attributes joined together to resist the invasion of the enemy. The black Shin power was small and flexible, like a small spirit snake wandering around. Wherever it went, no matter what attribute the Shin power was, it would quickly decrease. This caused the two Shin powers to panic, so the water and earth Shin power went berserk. However, the small black Shin power did not intend to face them head-on, so it always avoided their pursuit and slithered away happily. The divine power of the two attributes became more and more violent, and their behavior was directly reflected in the leader's body. At this time, the leader not only had to bear the physical pain, but he also had to bear the uncontrollable divine power in his body. Under such double pressure, he immediately spat out blood and looked at the demon in disbelief. What did you do to me? The leader was in disbelief. In his opinion, his strength was clearly higher than the pretty boy in front of him, but why was it that in front of this demonic man, he did not have the slightest power to fight back? This was not normal. It was too abnormal and he couldn't accept it. Therefore, he concluded that this man must have used improper means. Otherwise, how could he be controlled by someone else? Do I need to do anything to you? In my eyes, you're just an ant. The demon coldly laughed. The haughtiness of looking down on the world instantly erupted from his body, causing people to not dare to look at him directly. At this moment, not only was the leader shocked, even Yin Xiao, the Yen clan's great elder, and the rest who had been with them for a period of time were equally shocked. This was because they had never seen such a devilishly handsome man exude such an intimidating aura. In their eyes, the man's favorite thing to do was to follow Ling Ruoxue around like a little tail. At that time, they had only thought that this man was unbelievably handsome, even though the two of them looked quite compatible from the outside. However, they were not completely clear about the strength of a monster. However, now that they saw how easily he had toyed with the Hong family's immortal realm's messenger, they began to have some idea of the demon's strength. It seemed like the people around Ling Ruoxue could not be underestimated. Not only were these people extremely handsome, but they also liked to play the pig to eat the tiger, making people underestimate their strength. This kind of ending was fatal to anyone who was their enemy. Thinking up to this point, the Yen clan's first elder deeply rejoiced at his clan's wise decision. Otherwise, the fate of these people from the Hong clan would probably be the same as theirs. Imminent? The leader muttered to himself in shock. He had always regarded the people of the godly mainland as ants. He had never thought that there would be a day when he would be treated like an ant by someone from the godly mainland. This was a huge blow and humiliation to him, and he couldn't accept it. You're not just an ant, you're an ant that's about to die. The demon laughed coldly. Then, his palm slowly moved from the man's body to his neck. Everyone heard a crisp, caw sound and saw the man's head tilt to the side. He was no longer breathing. The demon threw the leader to the ground with a look of disgust. Then, he threw a ball of flame-like, extremely hot, black, translucent object onto the leader's body. In an instant, the man turned into ashes. When everyone from the Hong family saw this scene, they felt a deep fear in their hearts. Oh my God! He had actually used his bare hands to break his own boss' neck. This was truly too inconceivable. One should know that as one's strength increased, the toughness of one's body would also become tougher. It was almost impossible to strangle a person from the divine realm to death with just a pair of hands without using any divine skills or weapons. However, what they thought was impossible had actually happened right in front of their eyes. This made it impossible for them to deceive themselves even if they wanted to. This also caused the Hong family to be deeply afraid of him. In that instant, the members of the Hong family who were surrounding the demon all retreated secretly and tried to maintain a safe distance from him. Unfortunately, they had come here today. Ling Ruoxue and the others would not let them go back alive. Hence, no matter where they hid, they would not be able to survive. What are you guys doing? If I don't make a move, these ants will all be mine. The demon's starry eyes swept over Ziyu and the others, but the words he said made the Hong family's people's hearts palpitate with fear, and they secretly hated him. Hee hee. We were all stunned by your performance. Shuang laughed evilly. After he finished speaking, he immediately attacked the Hong family members around him. His huge and sharp claws gently scratched the air a few times, and 3 Hong family members died on the spot. There were 5 deep claw marks on their necks without exception, and blood flowed out from the claw marks like a spring. Seeing this, Ziyu and the others also attacked the Hong family members who were surrounding them. In fact, they were mainly afraid that if they were too late, their opponents would be robbed. Seeing them fighting to be the first to attack, Yin Xiao and the others naturally wouldn't just stand by and watch. After giving his subordinates a look, Yin Xiao's side began to fight. Right now, the only people who didn't make a move were the Yen clansmen. Seeing that the Hong clansmen had killed and injured countless people in an instant, some of the warlike Yen clansmen couldn't stand it anymore. The short-tempered one even said directly, "Great Elder, let's attack as well. Don't be in a hurry to make a move. The few of you, go and capture Ling. The rest of you, come with me to deal with the head of the Hong clan." After the Yen clan's first elder saw the situation on the stage, he gave a very self-aware order. Almost all of the Hong clan's people were from the firmament. With the Yen clan's current strength, it was naturally not suitable for them to fight them head-on. Moreover, he saw that Ling Ruoxue and the others had no difficulty dealing with the Hong clan's people from the firmament. Hence, he gave up the plan of ganging up on them and set his sights on the master of the Hong clan and Ling instead. It could not be said that he was slacking off, but he felt that if the master of the Hong clan and Yen Ling saw that the situation was not good, they might take advantage of the chaos and escape. It wasn't a good thing not to tell them. So this time, he naturally had to keep a close eye on those two guys who liked to cause trouble. We can't let them live. At the same time, the Yen clan, under the lead of their first elder, went straight to the somewhat panicked Hong clan master and Yen Ling, and surrounded them in the middle. What do you want to do? The master of the Hong family, who was looking for an opportunity to escape, was furious when he saw that he was completely surrounded. However, his tone at this time was as if he was a good girl who had met a lecher, full of helplessness and timidity. Chapter 1387, Bewildering Formation, 1, Don't you know what we want to do? The Yen clan's first elder laughed evilly. His tone was as if he was teasing a lady from a good family. He spoke in a relaxed and casual manner. However, when the Hong clan's clan head heard it, he had mixed feelings in his heart. He had once regarded the Yen family as a piece of fat meat that he was determined to get and had deliberately planned to annex the Yen family. But now, he was going to become the Yen family's prisoner again. This made him feel very uncomfortable in his heart. How could this be? Why couldn't he exterminate these people even though he had invited the main family? He couldn't understand what went wrong. Don't act rashly. You've killed a member of the main family. The main family will never let you off. The head of the Hong family said after some thought. Master Hong, are you trying to use your family to threaten us? I've already killed him, so what if I don't let him go? At this moment, Ling Ruoxue walked over with a faint smile. That damned woman. I won't let you off. When Yen Ling saw Ling Ruoxue, she couldn't help but shout. She really hated this woman to the core. However, she was even angrier about that useless man from the Hong family. He couldn't even deal with these few people. No. She didn't want to be caught by them again. As long as she thought of the fox and the man's terrible means, her heart was particularly afraid. Great Elder Yen, how do you plan to deal with this woman who has betrayed your Yen clan? Ling Ruoxue ignored Yen Ling's words and directly asked the Yen clan's first elder. I didn't betray the Yen clan, Great Elder. Don't listen to her nonsense. After hearing Ling Ruoxue's words, Yen Ling immediately shouted. Her beautiful face was filled with anxiety. You colluded with the Hong clan to put us to death. Isn't that betraying the Yen clan? Do you really have to let the Yen family die in your hands before it can be considered a betrayal? Ling Ruoxue laughed coldly and asked with a mocking expression. Great Elder Grandpa. I only wanted to kill them, not the Yen clan. Although you've expelled me from the Yen clan, in my heart, I'm still a member of the Yen clan, whether alive or dead. How could I possibly betray the Yen clan? Great Elder Grandfather. We're a family, don't listen to the instigations of outsiders. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yen Ling quickly played the emotional card. Her words still carried a trace of crying and grievance, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, making her look really pitiful. However, most of the Yen clan's people present knew Yen Ling's temperament. Therefore, even if she pretended to be pitiful, even if she wanted to die wisely, the Yen clan's people present did not believe her. From this, it could be seen how bad Yen Ling's popularity was, and her act of showing weakness seemed to have been used in the wrong place. Great Elder Grandpa. You've watched me grow up. Seeing that the Yen family didn't respond for a long time, Yen Ling said again. That's right. I've watched you grow up. You were so pure and cute when you were young, but how did you become like this? The Yen clan's first elder said with a look of disappointment. He was very disappointed, especially when he saw that Yen Ling had actually colluded with the Hong family. The anger in his heart could not be described with words, and Yen Ling indeed wanted to kill them as well. Therefore, he really did not dare to keep such a venomous Yen family member in this world. Great Elder Yen. You can clean up your own mess. I'll take care of the Hong family head. Seeing through the Yen clan's first elder's thoughts, Ling Ruoxue chuckled as she distributed the two of them. All right. The Yen clan's great elder nodded, and then gave a look to the Yen clan's people beside him. The Yen clan's people who received the great elder's look immediately stepped forward and lifted Yen Ling up by her collar like a little chick. The Hong family head didn't dare to say a word when he saw this scene. He could already see from the corner of his eye that most of the Hong family members he had brought with him were dead. This scene made the fear in his heart slowly deepen. These people were too ruthless. They were not human. The head of the Hong family couldn't help but shout in his heart. However, it was a pity that no one could hear his inner thoughts. Ling Ruoxue, who could have let Qing Ju read her mind, was not interested in knowing what he was thinking. Ling, you should be a good person in your next life. After the Yen clan's great elder finished speaking, a fiery red light was released from his hand. Then, Yen Ling, who had no power to resist, died. She didn't even struggle and died very peacefully. When Ling Ruoxue saw this scene, she knew that the Yen clan's first elder was still somewhat soft-hearted, otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed Yen Ling, to die so easily. Killing her so easily was really letting her off too easily. However, since she had said that Yen Ling would be dealt with by the Yen clan, she naturally wouldn't interfere with their actions. As for this Master Hong, it's not easy to die now, Since he dared to use her as a reward, he had to be prepared for her revenge. Besides, not to mention that he would not let him die so easily, even the demon would not want him to die too easily. Shua, leave this Master Hong to me. The demon walked over and said with a smile that was not a smile. No. I don't want to give it to you. Don't mess around, the Hong family won't let you off. When the master of the Hong family heard the demon's words, he was so scared that he stuttered. Woo! This guy is really too ruthless. He actually strangled someone from the firmament to death. When he thought about the demon's terrifying methods, he felt extremely regretful. Were his eyes covered in shit? He had actually mistaken a fierce wolf for a weak little rabbit. This was definitely his biggest miscalculation. Otherwise, how could he be so miserable? Don't be afraid. I'll be gentle. The evil man smiled charmingly, but the coldness on his body only increased. Hearing the demon's words, Ling Ruoxue and the others were all speechless. These words really made their imaginations run wild. However, they naturally wouldn't say it out loud at this time, in case they were also unlucky. After the demon finished speaking, he stretched out his long arm and mimicked the way the Yen clan's people did previously. He lifted the Hong clan's clan head to his eyes like he was carrying a little chick and said with a faint smile, "Your wife has already left, don't worry. I'll let you accompany her, but we have to have a good chat before you go." Then, the evildoer grabbed the collar of the Hong family's master and dragged him into a tent. Not long after, painful moans and screams could be heard from the tent. Yin Xiao and the others were curious, but no matter how curious they were, they didn't dare to go in to see what was going on. They didn't want to see what they shouldn't see and be killed by the evildoer. Chapter 1388, Bewildering Formation, 2, Therefore, they could only suppress the throbbing curiosity in their hearts and vent all the pain of not being able to find out the truth on the Hong family members who were not completely dead yet. After a long time, the sounds in the tent became weaker and weaker. All the Hong family members present had been killed by Yin Xiao and the rest. Then, they saw the demon dragging the Hong family head out of the tent by his collar. Master Hong was dragged in and out. In other words, Master Hong was no longer alive. After the evildoer threw Master Hong on the ground, he walked to Ling Ruoxue and said, "Shua, since these people are all dead, if we let them lie here and scare the passers-by, we will feel guilty." In other words, he was saying that he could destroy these people's corpses and get rid of all traces. After all, they had done this kind of thing many times in the past. Yes. Ling Ruoxue nodded. A small flame with a dark purple glow appeared on her fingertips. The temperature of the flame was extremely high. The moment it appeared, it dried up the moisture in the surrounding 100 miles. When it was thrown onto the bodies of the Hong family members, their bodies evaporated like water vapor without exception. Seeing this, Yin Xiao and the Yen clan's great elder were both shocked. Their subordinates were also dumbfounded. What kind of flame was this? The temperature was so high that they could not stand it any longer. What they did not know was that she had even controlled the temperature of the flames on purpose, afraid that the Yin and Yen families would not be able to adapt to it. However, even Ziyu and the rest who knew that the temperature of Ling Ruoxu's flames was extremely high, they had subconsciously stayed away from the scope of the flames, especially Shuang. She was afraid that her beautiful long hair would be burned again, so the moment she saw the flames, she immediately hid far away. After everything was settled, Ling Ruoxue and the rest bade farewell to the Yen clan's first elder. The group headed towards the Nightmare Forest. As the Yen clan's first elder was in a hurry to return and report everything to the clan head, he did not hold them back. He only said that he would pay a visit to the Nightmare Forest when he had the time before leaving in a hurry. At the same time, in the main residence of the Hong family in Hong City, the first elder of the Hong family stood in the ancestral hall with a sorrowful expression. He looked at the life command token that had already shattered in front of him, and his heart ached faintly. One had to know that he had spent a large sum of money to redeem a good portion of those who had died from the Yen family. However, because of hatred, not only had they lost their lives, but they had also caused the Hong family to suffer heavy losses. In a few hundred years, the Hong family on the godly mainland would not be able to recover. At the thought of this, he could not help but feel resentful towards his family head, who had also died. If it wasn't for the family head not listening to his advice and insisting on dealing with Ling Ruoxue and the others, even imprisoning him, how would the Hong family have lost both their wealth and manpower? Once the family head died, the Hong family would be without a leader. Therefore, the elders who were left behind by the family head to watch over him had no choice but to let him out and ask him to take care of the household. AI. Housework. How could the Hong family still have any domestic affairs to speak of? The entire Hong family was in a state of panic because of the death of the family head and some elders. They were afraid that the other party would come to the door and destroy them together. Therefore, the Hong family members at this time had no intention of staying in Hong City. Some of them had already left and some of them had hidden. The only person accompanying him in the main residence was actually that brainless Elder Shan. And Elder Shan was also the only one who would still visit his Hong family members when he was imprisoned by the family head. Thinking about the fickleness of human relationships these days, the first elder of the Hong family was even more open-minded. Hatred was endless, and he couldn't even think about avenging the head of the Hong family and the others. This was not because he was timid or not as good as others, but because he felt that as a person from the divine realm, he should be mentally prepared to die at any time. If he went to seek revenge the moment someone in his family died, how many people would die in the divine realm every day? The consequences of this endless revenge would slowly form a cycle and fall into a dead end. First elder, no matter what you want to do, I will support you. Standing behind the first elder of the Hong family, Elder Shan, who had not spoken for a long time, said. The first elder of Hong clan turned around as he patted Elder Shan's shoulder. Although he didn't express his gratitude, he looked pretty pleasant. At this moment, he had someone's support. What a nice feeling. Elder Shan, you've worked hard these days. After looking at Elder Shan for a long while, the first elder of the Hong family finally spoke. It's not hard. Elder Shan said, a little flattered. Ever since the great elder found out that he had single-handedly created the scandal between him and the Yen clan's great elder, he had not brought him to see him. However, the great elder had obviously been treating him more well these days, which made him very excited. Great elder, there are only the two of us in the main residence now. What are your thoughts? The first elder of the Hong family asked. He knew that after the death of the master, some people in the Hong family had the idea of splitting the family. He had not allowed this at first, but he had thought it through. Since those people wanted to split the family, then so be it. He couldn't be bothered with them anymore, but this matter shouldn't be known by the main family. Otherwise, the main family wouldn't allow it. First elder, We can't split. If the main clan were to find out about this, the consequences would be severe. Elder Shan frowned as he thought about it seriously. His branch of the Hong family was originally the main family's representative in the Divine Mainland. If their branch family didn't inform the main family and the main family found out, they would definitely be punished. Now that the Hong family isn't united, it's not a bad idea to move out. Those who still have feelings for the main residence can continue to live there. After all, this is the main residence of the Hong family in the godly land. As for those who have other plans, give them some money and let them leave Hong City. This way, we'll still be the main family of the Hong family on the divine continent, and we won't go against the purpose of the main family in the divine world. The first elder of the Hong family revealed his thoughts. Great elder, you mean that we're still us, but some of our clansmen have gone out to live alone? Elder Shan understood the great elder's meaning and confirmed. Yes, other than the clansmen who have left to live alone, we won't let outsiders know that our Hong family has already split. The first elder of the Hong family said. Chapter 1389, Bewildering Formation, 3, Great Elder, since you've already decided, well, do as you say. I have no objections. Elder Shan said. Elder Shan, it'll have to trouble you to handle this matter. It's not convenient for me to speak up about the separation of the family. I can only pretend that I don't know about it. Moreover, you must be very careful and tell them not to tell anyone that the Hong family has already separated. Otherwise, they will bear the consequences. The first elder of the Hong family reminded. Don't worry, Grand Elder. I know what to do. After Elder Shan finished speaking, he gave a slight bow to the first elder of the Hong family and left the ancestral hall. The Hong family was secretly splitting up. At this time, Ling Ruoxue and the others had arrived at Yanbei City. They went to the city lord's mansion to greet Yan Kun and told him what had happened during this period of time. After that, she brought Yin Xiao and the others into the nightmare forest. Walking in the nightmare forest and breathing in the fresh air, Yin Xiao felt a sense of relaxation and peace that he had never felt before. As Ling Ruoxue and the rest arrived at the main residence that they had settled down on a mountain, Yin Xiao and the rest stayed there temporarily. The evildoer felt extremely uncomfortable seeing people sticking themselves in between his shui and acting as a 1,000-watt light bulb. However, Shui was the one who invited them and he couldn't chase them away, so he was extremely depressed. Yin Xiao seemed to know the evildoer's thoughts and appeared in front of them more frequently. Everyone had agreed to go hunting together. Yin Xiao and the rest, who were already prepared, followed Ling Ruoxue and the others into the forest. However, as they walked, they realized that they had lost their way. At this moment, Ling Ruoxue and the others had disappeared too. What was going on? Could it be that the rabbits they encountered just now were the bait they set up to abandon them here? Yin Xiao couldn't help but let his thoughts run wild. In fact, he had guessed correctly. The evildoer thought that he was too much of an eyesore, so he used the group of rabbits that ran into their sight to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Originally, they had wanted to chase after the group of rabbits together. However, the evildoer who was walking at the back had pulled Ling Ruoxue away when no one was paying attention. As for Ziyu and the rest, they had lived in the forest for a long time, so they were naturally not trapped by the maze in the forest. However, Yin Xiao and the rest were different. It was their first time here and they were too focused on chasing after the rabbits. As a result, they were accidentally separated from Ziyu and the rest. Yin Xiao and the rest, who were not very familiar with the forest, naturally lost their way. Young master. We're lost. There seems to be a maze formation here. After observing it carefully, Uncle Zhong came to an important conclusion. A bewildering formation. Could it be that Shui and the others set it up? Yin Xiao's face was filled with curiosity. He wasn't dejected because he knew that Shui would definitely send someone to find them, so he wasn't worried at all. I don't know about that. However, we can't leave now. We can only wait for Miss Lang and the others to come and find us. Uncle Zhong said calmly. Well, since we're here, let's take things as they are. In that case, let's take a good look around here. I feel that this bewildering formation seems to be quite large. Yin Xiao said with a face full of anticipation. The so-called bewildering formation was similar to a maze. They both had to find the exit. Otherwise, they would be trapped in the bewildering formation forever. Young master. Be careful, although there are formations here, they are all based on the actual situation of the place where the formation is set up. Thus, other than not being able to leave, everything here is real and there is a considerable amount of danger, so we must be on high alert. Uncle Zhong, who had a slight understanding of formations, recalled the characteristics of a bewildering formation and warned him very cautiously. Yes. Yin Xiao and the others nodded, and everyone carefully strolled through the maze. There was no lack of food in the maze because there were many small animals trapped in the maze. However, the small animals were quite adaptable and did not panic because they could not get out. After seeing Yin Xiao and the others, they continued to eat their food unhurriedly, while some were sleeping in their caves. As it was late autumn, the weather was rather cold. As a result, some of the beasts that were afraid of the cold had already chosen to sleep in their own caves. As for those beasts that were loitering outside, they did not have much intelligence and had a lower sense of danger. These beasts were also their best food choices. After wandering around the maze for a while, Yin Xiao and the rest sat on the ground. After starting a fire, they placed the rabbit and turkey meat that had been cleaned long ago on the fire to roast. Although the temperature inside the maze was not much different from the outside, the beasts living inside were obviously more comfortable. They had few natural enemies and would probably only eat and sleep every day. Therefore, these low-level beasts were all fat and strong. They were roasted on the fire for a while. The oil began to sizzle and drip onto the fire, creating small sparks. Yin Xiao's heart was filled with satisfaction as he smelled the meat's fragrance. Young master. If young Lady Ling can't find us tonight, we can only spend the night here. After supper, Uncle Zhong warned Zhang Tai as he watched the gradually darkening sky. Uncle Zhong, tell them to set up the tents. I guess we'll have to spend the night here. Yin Xiao said. That jealous man would not let Shui find them so easily. Therefore, he resigned himself to his fate. All right, he said. Yes, sir. Uncle Zhong replied and then went to instruct his subordinates. Yin Xiao looked at the sky that was slowly turning dark and sat by the fire in a daze. From afar, Uncle Zhong saw his young master's condition and tactfully did not disturb him. Instead, he casually found a place to sit down and carefully observed Yin Xiao's reaction in secret. Yin Xiao, who was lost in his own thoughts, felt a bright gaze on him. He felt helpless and couldn't help but say, Uncle Zhong, why do you keep your eyes on me? In fact, there was one more thing that he didn't say in his heart, and that was, Uncle Zhong, your gaze makes my pear grow big. Young master. You're not young anymore, it's time for you to start a family. Uncle Zhong thought that his young master felt lonely after seeing them in pairs. Therefore, he couldn't help but put it in a serious way. Family? Forget it. Uncle Zhong, you know that I'm used to being free. Besides, I don't like those women who are as delicate as flowers. I don't have the time to coax them. Yin Xiao said with a headache. Then what kind of girl do you like? Tell Uncle Zhong. Uncle Zhong will keep an eye out for you. Uncle Zhong asked with an expectant look. Although he had watched the young master grow up, he didn't know what the young master was thinking about because the young master always greeted people with a smile and buried all his thoughts in his heart. Hee hee. If you can find me someone like Shui, I might consider it. Yin Xiao made it difficult for him. He knew that Uncle Zhong must have been incited by his grandfather to tell him this. Otherwise, Uncle Zhong wouldn't say this for no reason. Young master wanted to find someone as beautiful as Miss Ling? Or strength? Uncle Zhong said with a troubled expression. He had lived in the firmament for many years and had a very high status in the Yin clan. He was also the most trusted person by the clan head's side. Hence, he had seen many young ladies from the direct line of descent from the top clans. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he had never thought that they would be on par with Ling Ruoxue. Those ladies seemed a little childish in front of Ling Ruoxue. Appearance, strength, and temperament must all be the same. If Uncle Zhong can find them, you'll marry and have a family as you wish. Yin Xiao promised, feeling proud of his own intelligence. He had arranged a task for Uncle Zhong, so Uncle Zhong didn't have time to target him. Actually, the reason why he wanted his future wife to be like Ling Ruoxue was just to find an excuse. He didn't want Uncle Zhong to be entrusted by others to nag about his marriage. He knew very well that it was impossible for Uncle Zhong to find a woman like Ling Ruoxue. After all, a woman like Ling Ruoxue was definitely one of a kind in this world. His request would definitely reach his grandfather's ears. He had no choice but to give up. Young master. Aren't you making things difficult for your subordinates? I'm afraid that you might not be able to find someone with young Lady Ling's appearance and temperament even if you search the entire divine realm. As for someone with a similar strength to young Lady Ling, it would be easier. As Uncle Zhong was valued by his master, he was naturally very smart. How could he not hear the young master's intention to shirk responsibility? Uncle Zhong, do you know Shui Er's real battle strength? Do you really think they are as good as their appearance? Yin Xiao raised his brows and asked. Ah. Uncle Zhong became dumbfounded. Yup. How could he forget that those people like to pretend to be pigs to eat tigers? It seemed that even if he wanted to find someone with the same strength as Miss Ling, there would be no chance. Sigh. He was a little dejected. Uncle Zhong, don't worry about my marriage, alas. I can only blame myself for knowing Shui Er for such a short time. We're not fated to be together. Yin Xiao pretended to be sad as he spoke. In fact, although he admired Shui Er, it was more of admiration because he knew that an outstanding woman like Shui Er was not someone ordinary men could control. Moreover, she already had someone she liked, so naturally, he would not do anything to snatch her away. More importantly, he could not take her away. That evil man was like a beast protecting its food, guarding Shui Er's side every day. Which man could get close to Shui Er? In addition, he had personally witnessed the evil man's murderous aura and shocking aura. He had no other thoughts. Now, he was already very satisfied that Shui Er could call him Big Brother Yin. He did not dare to expect too much because his mother had once said that one should know how to be content with what they have. Don't covet things that don't belong to you. That is the beginning of destruction. He had always kept his mother's wise words in mind. AI. Young master. Although Miss Ling is very outstanding, she really doesn't suit you. Uncle Zhong comforted his young master at once when he saw his young master was a bit sad. Uncle Zhong, don't urge me to get married in the future. I don't have that intention for the time being. Yin Xiao's face was filled with worry as he spoke. Chapter 1390, The Mysterious Valley, 1, Good. Good. This subordinate will not mention it again. Young master, don't worry. Uncle Zhong hurriedly promised as he felt pretty guilty inside. He had accidentally touched on the young master's sad matter. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Yin Xiao was secretly overjoyed. Now, Uncle Zhong would not keep nagging him. He could finally have some peace. Actually, his words were half true and half false. It was true that he admired Shui Er and was a bit sad, however, it was not as serious as what Uncle Zhong imagined. After all, he had long adjusted his mentality and recognized the relationship between him and Shui Er. Therefore, of course, he would not seek for trouble and bring trouble to others. Perhaps, this was the difference between men and women in love. Of course, not all men could be so rational. Not all women would be as demanding as the Hong sisters and Ling. Following that, Uncle Zhong changed the topic and talked about the situation of the divine realm. However, he kept mentioning a name, which made Yin Xiao a little uncomfortable. Yin Xiao furrowed his brows helplessly. He felt extremely helpless. Woo! Uncle Zhong must have done it on purpose. He was using that person's name to disgust him. Uncle Zhong, who had been talking non-stop, saw Yin Xiao's expression and laughed in his heart. He did it on purpose. Who asked the young master to deliberately make things difficult for him? Uncle Zhong. It's getting late, I'm going to sleep. Yin Xiao said hurriedly before running into his tent as if he was fleeing for his life. Is Miss Lan that scary? She's your cousin. Uncle Zhong couldn't help but mutter to himself as he watched Yin Xiao's back. In reality, the people of the firmament had very low requirements for sleep. Even though they would feel tired, they did not need to sleep every day. However, after spending time with Ling Ruoxue and the others, they seemed to have been infected by it and had developed the habit of sleeping every day. After leaving the two guardians of the night, Uncle Zhong also entered the tent. At the same time, Ling Ruoxue had also noticed that Brother Yin and the rest had fallen into a maze. Initially, she wanted to bring them out immediately. However, when she saw the demon acting pitiful again, her heart softened and she allowed him to do as he wished. After that, the demon's eyes were all smiles. They're all from the divine world. You don't have to worry about their safety. You should know that Uncle Zhong has hidden his true strength. In the room of the two, the demon said disapprovingly. Don't look at Uncle Zhong beside Yin Xiao. He always looked silly and honest, but in fact, he was a real old fox. Yes, evildoers. Let's go and pick them up tomorrow morning. Ling Ruoxue tried to negotiate. After all, Brother Yin was a guest that she had invited. It didn't seem too good to trap a guest in a maze. Let's keep observing. Maybe he's having fun. The demon laughed evilly. He knew that apart from training, Yin Xiao and the rest had come to the divine mainland to explore. Therefore, the forest was definitely one of their favorite places. Being trapped in a bewildering formation and unable to walk out, how can I enjoy it? The maze isn't very big, we'll reach the end in 2 days at most. Ling Ruoxue said helplessly. She didn't think that Big Brother Yin and the others would be enjoying themselves. Then we should at least let them stay in the bewildering array for 2 days. Otherwise, they won't be able to finish their tour. The demon suggested. After hearing the demon's words, Ling Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. Tour? Who would be in the mood to explore when trapped in a bewildering formation? Let's not talk about that guy anymore. It's getting late. The demon said seriously, determined to defend his rights. Okay, then go to sleep. Ling Ruoxue sighed. The next morning, after Yin Xiao and the others had their breakfast, they wandered around the maze. According to Uncle Zhong's suggestion, it was best for them to wait at a fixed place for Miss Ling and the others to come and rescue them, in case they couldn't find them. However, Yin Xiao wanted to take a good look around the maze. After all, this was the first time he had seen the maze in his life. Along the way, Yin Xiao and the others left marks wherever they went. This was also to prevent them from not being able to return to the place where they had set up camp last night. After all, their tents were still there. Young master. From the looks of it, this maze formation wasn't small. We definitely won't be able to finish it in a day. Uncle Zhong sighed. It wasn't that he had never seen a bewildering formation before, but it was the first time he had seen such a large one. He really didn't know who had set up this bewildering formation. To be able to set up a bewildering formation of this size, the person's attainments in formation techniques were absolutely top-notch. It's fine. Didn't we leave a mark? If we can't finish today, we'll continue tomorrow. Yin Xiao couldn't help but say. Yes, young master. Then I'll go back today. Looking at the weather, it might rain soon. Uncle Zhong warned Zhang Tai as he watched the gloomy weather. Then let's go back. This time, Yin Xiao did not object. Yin Xiao and the others followed the markings they left behind, and just as they walked back to the campsite, heavy rain poured down from the sky. Everyone quickly hid in their tents. Through the skylight of the tent, he could see the huge raindrops that were bubbling outside. Yin Xiao's mood was extremely relaxed. Drinking hot tea and listening to the sound of the rain outside, this kind of life was quite pleasant. However, he didn't want to be trapped in the maze for too long, because that could kill him. However, he had also guessed that the devilish man wouldn't ask to find him so quickly, so he was very calm. Young master. It's a good thing we came back in time. Uncle Zhong said. Uncle Zhong, I heard that it feels very good to sleep on rainy days. How about going to bed too? Yin Xiao suggested. Ah. Young master. It's broad daylight now. Uncle Zhong helplessly said with black lines on his forehead. But it's raining outside now. What else can I do if not sleep? Yin Xiao's face was filled with question marks. Uncle Zhong didn't know how to answer Zhang Tai's question. In the bewildering array and in the rain, what else could he do if not sleep? Young master. Then go to sleep. Uncle Zhong said in a soft voice, feeling helpless. After hearing Uncle Zhong's words, Yin Xiao immediately lay down. He had never slept in the rain before. He could finally experience it today. Chapter 1391, The Mysterious Valley, 2. However, when the rain passed and Yin Xiao woke up, he found that the one beside him was not Uncle Zhong, but a furry little beast. The little beast was curled into a half-sphere and its head was buried under its body. Judging from its size, it should not be very big. However, the little beast's fur was still half wet and stuck to him, so his clothes were also affected. The wet and sticky feeling made him very uncomfortable. Uncle Zhong. Yin Xiao extended a finger and poked the little beastie's body. He was still calling Uncle Zhong, but he was referring to this little beastie. At the same time, he couldn't help but think, woo-woo. How did Uncle Zhong become a little beastie? Is Uncle Zhong not a human being? Just as Yin Xiao's imagination was running wild, the real Uncle Zhong walked in. Uncle Zhong happened to hear Yin Xiao calling the little beast Uncle Zhong, who was snuggling up to him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he stood still. He wanted to see what else the young master would say. Uncle Zhong, how did you turn into a little beast? Are you not human? Seeing that Uncle Zhong didn't respond for a long time, Yin Xiao couldn't help but say what he was thinking. After hearing that, Uncle Zhong couldn't help but burst out laughing. When Yin Xiao heard the laughter, he quickly turned his head and saw the Uncle Zhong from his memory standing at the door, looking at him with a helpless smile. Uncle Zhong. Seeing Uncle Zhong in person, Yin Xiao knew that he had made a huge mistake. His face instantly turned red from head to toe. At this moment, he really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Woo! How could he do such an embarrassing thing? His words were heard by Uncle Zhong, he was too ashamed to face anyone. Hee. Young master. Uncle Zhong is not a non-human being. Uncle Zhong was neither angry nor annoyed, but he said happily. It was rare to see such a lovely appearance of the young master, so of course he had to tease him. Uncle Zhong. Yin Xiao felt so embarrassed that he couldn't face anyone anymore. However, what was up with this little beast that had caused him to misunderstand? His face was full of question marks. Who is it? Yin Xiao pointed at little beastie. I don't know. I don't even know how it got in. Uncle Zhong shrugged as he said helplessly. Ah. What do we do now? Yi Xiao was speechless. Not only was the little beast's fur half wet, but its body was also dirty. His clothes were not spared either. I'll throw it out. Uncle Zhong said after thinking for a while. Although he didn't know how this little beast came in, he thought it must be to take shelter from the rain. Now that the rain had passed, of course, it was unnecessary for this little guy to stay here. He even called it Uncle Zhong. After saying that, Uncle Zhong walked to the little beastie's side and was about to pick it up and take it out of the tent. Unexpectedly, the curled-up little beastie suddenly raised its head and opened its eyes to look at them. Ugh! Uncle Zhong became stunned at a stroke because this little beast had a pair of fiery eyes, which were as beautiful as 2 pieces of top-quality rubies. Additionally, its eyes were crystal clear and misty. Apparently, it had heard all the words between Uncle Zhong and the young master. For a moment, Uncle Zhong didn't know what to do. "Little fellow, since you're awake, why don't you tell us where you came from? Why are you in my tent?" Yin Xiao looked at the pitiful, ruby-like eyes and hardened his heart. This little beast's appearance was too strange, so he had to find out. The little beastie blinked its eyes but didn't say anything. "Little thing. It's useless to pretend to be deaf." Yin Xiao looked at little beastie, who was staring at them without saying a word, and reminded. "Young master. This little fellow probably can't speak yet," Uncle Zhong said after observing it for a while. Uncle Zhong's words were immediately answered by little beastie. It nodded its head excitedly, its eyes glimmering with light, showing its excitement. "It seems that Uncle Zhong is right," Yin Xiao said helplessly when he saw the little beastie's fawning look. Was a beastie that couldn't speak considered a young one? In the immortal realm, as long as a young beast with a noble bloodline was born, the weakest one was basically a holy beast, and looking at the clever appearance of this little beast, it naturally couldn't be the lowest level spirit beast, so it was really inconceivable that it couldn't speak, and was different from the rest. Little beastie nodded its head at Yin Xiao's words. "Uncle Zhong, what should we do with this little beast?" Yin Xiao looked at Uncle Zhong and asked. The moment it heard the word handle, the little beastie clutched Yin Xiao's sleeve tightly, its fiery red eyes revealing a pleading look. "There's no point in acting pitiful. We can't keep you here," Yi Xiao said, sigh. He didn't have the habit of taking care of children. Although Beastie was very independent from a young age and almost didn't need special care, it was still a very troublesome thing to take care of an underage little beast of unknown species. After hearing Yin Xiao's words, the little beastie actually began to cry. Bean-sized teardrops kept rolling down from its beautiful red eyes. "Ah! Don't cry," Yin Xiao said helplessly. Damn it, if it cried like this, people who didn't know the inside story would think that he had bullied this little beast. Fortunately, there were no outsiders here. Otherwise, his reputation would be in jeopardy. "Young master. Let's keep it for the time being. When we leave, well, just give it to Miss Ling," Uncle Zhong suggested helplessly. They did not have a fixed residence, so it was really not suitable for them to bring such a small beast on the road. Moreover, he had observed it for a long time but could not figure out what kind of species this fox-like little beast was. It was really too strange. Therefore, he wanted to keep this little beast for further observation. With Uncle Zhong's words, the little beastie that had suddenly appeared was left behind. After knowing that it wouldn't be driven away, the little beastie's mood became more relaxed, and it stuck even closer to Yin Xiao. Wherever Yin Xiao went, the little beast would follow. It did not leave his side at all. After Yin Xiao ordered his men to clean the little beast, he was surprised to find that it was quite beautiful. It had long, snow-white fur and a pair of ruby-like eyes, making it stand out. After being trapped in the Bewildering formation for 3 days, they had already walked around the entire formation. However, none of them were familiar with the formation. Thus, even if they walked through the entire formation, they could not find the formation's eye, and naturally could not leave the Bewildering formation. Chapter 1392, The Mysterious Valley, 3, Sitting by the fire, Yin Xiao didn't say a word. However, his heart was filled with Len Ruox's forsaking of friends after seeing a lover. Woo! Why hasn't Shua come to find them yet? Could she have forgotten about them? Little Beastie, who had been with Yin Xiao for a few days, could feel its temporary master's low mood. It jumped into his arms and rubbed against him to comfort him. Then, it jumped away from Yin Xiao's arms and ran a few steps forward. It turned around and looked at Yin Xiao and the others. Haven't you spun enough? You still want to go out? Yin Xiao looked at Little Beastie, who clearly wanted them to follow him, and said helplessly. Little Beastie nodded and stared at Yin Xiao with its fiery red eyes. Little guy. It's going to get dark soon, so we're not going out today. Yin Xiao reminded. Xiao Budian was the name he had given this little beast. Who asked it to be so small? Although little beastie had protested, he had ignored it. Seeing this, little beastie didn't give up and ran back to Yin Xiao's side. It bit his pants and dragged him forward. Looking at the little beastie's reluctance to part, Uncle Zhong smiled helplessly and said, "Young master. Since the little guy is so persistent, he might have discovered something. Why don't we follow him and take a look?" "All right then." With Uncle Zhong interceding for Xiao Budian, Yin Xiao naturally wouldn't refuse. When the little beastie heard its temporary master agree, it meowed at Uncle Zhong, as if to say, "Thank you for interceding for me." "Ha ha ha. This little one is quite interesting," Uncle Zhong said with a big smile at the sight of Xiao Budian. "Yup. This little fellow is very cunning," Yin Xiao said helplessly. "Don't think that this little thing can't talk, she's very smart." Following that, Xiao Budian walked in front and led the way while Yin Xiao and the rest followed behind. Xiao Budian brought Yin Xiao and the others to a cave that was half the height of a person. He indicated for them to enter while he ran in first. "Little guy. Don't run around." Seeing Xiao Budian run in, Yin Xiao hurriedly called out. "Young master. Let's go in and take a look," Uncle Zhong said. "Yes." Yin Xiao nodded his head. Even though he had not spent much time with Xiao Budian, he still liked this little thing. If he were to encounter any danger in the cave, his heart would still ache for him. Immediately after, Yin Xiao left two subordinates outside the cave to receive them while he brought Uncle Zhong and the others into the cave. The two loyal subordinates stood guard outside the cave. However, Yin Xiao and the others did not come out until the next morning. This made the two of them anxious. Why haven't the young master and the others returned yet? It's been an entire night, a subordinate said. "I'll go in and take a look, you stay here and guard." After another subordinate finished speaking, he was about to walk into the cave. "Wait. I'll go with you," the previous subordinate said. He was not willing to stay outside alone in fear. Moreover, he did not dare to imagine how furious the family head would be if something happened to the young master and the others. He was afraid that he would not be able to explain it to the family head even if he died. "If we both go in, who's going to report to the master?" The subordinate who was about to go in warned with his eyes wide open. "Then be careful," the subordinate from before warned. "Yes." The subordinate who was about to enter nodded. However, before he could enter, he heard a familiar voice. Where did Big Brother Yin go? Just as Ling Ruoxue finished her sentence, she had already arrived in front of them. She brought the demon and the rest into the maze to look for Brother Yin and the rest. However, they only saw the tents that they had set up, but they were nowhere to be seen. After searching for a while, they only found Brother Yin's two subordinates. Miss Leng, the young master and Uncle Zhong brought people into this cave. Before they went in, the young master ordered us to guard here. However, it has been a night and they have not come out, one of his subordinates explained worriedly. After hearing what Brother Yin's subordinate said, Ling Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the unremarkable cave. From the outside, there was nothing special about this small cave. Furthermore, it was obvious that it had been abandoned for a long time. Why did Brother Yin suddenly come here? She really couldn't understand it. Big Brother Yin, what are you doing in this cave? Ling Ruoxue asked with a face full of question marks. Young master didn't want to go in at first. It was a small beast that brought us here. That small beast ran in, and young master and the others followed it in. The subordinate explained. Aren't there many little beasts here? Is it not enough for you? Ling Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with puzzlement. She had lost her way while chasing after her prey. In her memory, no one else had ever done such a thing except for Big Brother Yin. Ah! It's not a little beastie that eats. It's a little beast that the young master has adopted. The Yin family's subordinate saw that Ling Ruoxue had misunderstood and quickly explained. Oh. Ling Ruoxue finally understood. It seemed that Brother Yin and the others were really enjoying themselves, as the evildoer said. He was trapped in the bewildering formation, but he still had the heart to take care of the little beastie. Miss Ling, young master, and the rest have gone in for a long time and have not come out. What should we do? The Yin family's subordinate asked helplessly. Let's go in and take a look. Ling Ruoxue glanced at the demon. Then let's go in together. The other subordinate hurriedly said. N. Ling Ruoxue nodded and pulled the demon in. The light in the cave was very dim, and the smell of dry soil inside reminded everyone that this place had been deserted for a long time. Ling Ruoxue lit up a flame and lit up the cave in an instant. It was only then that everyone realized that there were many totems carved on the stone walls of the cave. Each of the totems had a few beasts that looked like foxes carved on it. These beasts were huge in size, and although they had different forms, they all looked extremely arrogant. Their eyes had an aura that seemed to look down on the world. The beasts on the totems were of different colors, but they all had one thing in common. That was, every beastie had a pair of beautiful fiery red eyes. If she hadn't come here, Ling Ruoxue would never have thought that there would be a place like this in her territory. If she wasn't wrong, there should have been a group of beasts living here. From the looks of it, the beasts that had once lived here had either moved away or gone extinct. Other than that, there was no other possibility. Chapter 1393, The Mysterious Valley, 4. Do you guys know what kind of beastie this is? Ling Ruoxue asked Ziyu and the others as she observed the stone wall. She looks like a fox. The moon, I said as it looked at Shuang. They're not foxes. Shuang was very certain. Although the beasts on the stone walls were only totems, they gave off an extremely powerful aura. The fox race rarely had such an aura. They were more skilled in charm and confusion techniques. Then what are they? Yu Jing's face was filled with curiosity. As a soul-gnawing beast with inherited memories, she was extremely ashamed. Because, she did not recognize these beasts on the stone wall. In her eyes, they were all foxes. Young Miss Ling, the beast on this stone wall is a little similar to the little beast that brought my young master and the others in. At this time, the Yin family's subordinate finally spoke after recovering from his shock. Are you sure? Ling Ruoxue raised her brows and asked calmly. Yes. However, the little beast that brought young master and the others here should not be an adult yet. It doesn't have the aura that these beasts in the totems have. The subordinate said. Shua, since this is the little beast's territory, let's continue walking in. The demon suggested after hearing the Yin family's subordinate's words. All right. Ling Ruoxue replied. Then, the group continued to walk deeper into the cave. Unknowingly, they walked further and further, and there were more and more totems on the stone walls. However, they were all about the beast race. Although the totems were carved very vividly, there were many that they could not understand. After walking for an unknown distance, Ling Ruoxue and the rest finally arrived before a huge golden door. Looking at the tightly shut golden door, Ling Ruoxue hesitated for a moment. In the end, she pushed the door open and walked in, while the others followed closely behind. With a flash of white light, Ling Ruoxue and the rest were transported to a courtyard. At this moment, everyone suddenly realized that the golden door was actually a transportation array. But where were they? They were currently in a valley filled with the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers. The scenery in the valley was extremely beautiful, and the climate was pleasant. The warm and gentle wind blew on everyone's bodies, making them feel extremely comfortable. Not only that, but the little beasts in the valley didn't seem to be afraid of people. After seeing them, they only sniffed them curiously and ignored them. Moreover, this valley was very large, and one could not see the end of it. Let's go over there and look for it. Ling Ruoxue pointed to a small path on her left. Even though she did not know if Brother Yin and the rest were in the valley, they could not return empty-handed. Furthermore, The strange thing was that Green Vessel was unable to monitor this place. Naturally, it would be impossible for them to investigate the situation here. Yes. No one had any objections to Ling Ruoxu's decision. The group walked along the small path on the left. Ling Ruoxu saw that there were quite a number of herbs here, so she moved Qiuqiu out of her bracelet. Once Qiuqiu was out, it flew around the valley very happily. However, when it encountered precious natural treasures, it would not forget to remind them. "Miss, this place is so big. When can we reach the end?" After a long time, Yuqing couldn't help but complain. "Calm down, we'll be at the end soon," Ling Ruoxu consoled him helplessly. Actually, she didn't know how long she had been waiting for them to leave. However, it was a good thing that there were many herbs that she really needed growing here. Otherwise, she would have been frustrated as well. Not long after Ling Ruoxu finished speaking, a house appeared before everyone's eyes, as if to verify her words. The exterior of the house was made entirely of stone, but the interior was rather luxurious. The entire floor was paved with polished black crystal stones. The black crystal stones emitted a dense spiritual qi, so Ling Ruoxu could tell with a single glance that they were dark attribute crystal stones. Furthermore, they were of the highest quality. The surrounding walls were all colorless and semi-transparent crystals, also emitting a strong natural energy. Ling Ruoxu squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the semi-transparent walls around her. She was speechless. If she remembered correctly, the crystal stones on the walls should be the attributeless crystal stones that were long extinct as mentioned in the information left behind by her master. All these crystal stones were of the highest quality. He really didn't know what kind of people or beasts once lived here. It was really too extravagant. Even though she had quite a few good things in her hands, she was not willing to use top-grade crystals as the floor or the wallpaper. It seemed that compared to the previous owner of this place, she was still very poor. Sob. When she thought of this, Ling Ruoxu felt depressed. Chapter 1394, An Unusual Path, 1, Why am I so poor? Ling Ruoxu thought to herself with a tinge of sadness, I wonder if there's anything that I can take with me. I really want to take all of them away, but I wonder who the owner of this place is. Oh. If he ransacked someone's house, would he be hunted down? She started to let her imagination run wild. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out in the originally empty room, "You guys are here?" The few of them were stunned and looked at each other. Their confused eyes were filled with countless question marks. Who was this voice talking to? The gazes of Ling Ruoxu and the rest could not help but land on the two guards from the Yin clan. The two guards' hearts trembled as they looked at them. It wasn't me. We don't know him. One of the guards hurriedly said under the pressure of Ling Ruoxu and the others' gazes. We don't know him, Ling Ruoxu said with a smile. AI. The voice sighed and said helplessly, Little girl, I'm talking to you. Since the owner of the voice had already identified the gender, the few men naturally wouldn't let their imagination run wild. As the only three women present, Ling Ruoxu, Yuqing, and Xiang, also ignored the voice and raised their heads to look at the sky. No one was stupid. This was not the first time they had encountered such a fortuitous encounter. In everyone's understanding, anyone who started off by saying, "You guys are here?" Usually, it would not be a good thing. They were either asked to work like cows and horses or to complete some mission. If the reward of the mission was good, it would be worth it. However, if it was some garbage, they would have no way to reason with it. After all, the mission had already been completed. Therefore, they all subconsciously avoided the words of this voice. Little girl, it's useless for you to play dumb. Since we're here, it means that we're fated to meet. Sigh. The owner of the voice sighed when no one responded. Little girl, I do have a favor to ask of you. However, if you're not willing, I won't force you. But if you don't agree to my request, you won't be able to continue forward, and you won't be able to see the friends who came here before. The voice continued. Big brother Ian and the others are here. After Ling Ruoxue heard the voice's words, she finally had some reaction. However, she was a little annoyed in her heart. Damn it, this voice said that it wouldn't force them, but in reality, if they didn't accept this voice's mission, they wouldn't be able to continue forward. How infuriating. If the big brother Yin you mentioned is the group of people who passed by here before, then they are indeed here. The voice said. Why can they pass through here? Ling Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. There was something else that she didn't say out loud, and that was, why do we have to complete your commission? Although it was called a request, Ling Ruoxue was very clear that the previous owner of this place must have left behind some kind of test, or rather, it could be said to be their last wish. After someone discovered this place, they had no choice but to complete it. Otherwise, they would have to return the way they came. They are not the ones we have chosen. Moreover, they have a junior from my clan to lead the way. Therefore, they can naturally pass through this place directly. However, you can, the voice explained. Oh. Since that's the case, we won't be going over. Ling Ruoxue chuckled. Her answer not only stunned her voice, but even Ziyu and the others were surprised. After all, they had come in to find someone, but now, because this voice wanted them to do something, their miss was suddenly not going. This didn't seem like his young miss character. Not going over. Are you sure? Didn't you guys come here to find those people? The voice asked a few questions in a row, its tone full of disbelief. We're indeed here to find those people, but since they have a junior from your clan to lead the way, we naturally don't need to find them. Well, just wait for them at the door. Ling Ruoxue spoke the truth. She didn't know who the owner of this voice was, so she really didn't dare to lie to him. If he were to expose her, it would bring trouble to them, Brother Yin, and the others. That wouldn't be the outcome she wanted. Little girl, they were brought to the holy land of my clan by a junior of my clan. There are many souls of my clan that have yet to rest in peace, so it will be dangerous for them to go there. If you can't save them in time, I'm afraid you will never see them again. The owner of the voice seemed to be in a very bad mood. What did you just say? Ling Ruoxue's voice turned cold as she questioned him. I said you must save them. Otherwise, they will be in danger. The voice repeated. You'd better make yourself clear. Ling Ruoxue warned. Little girl, this was originally the habitat of my clan. However, a great disaster several tens of thousands of years ago caused this place to become a nightmare for my clan. That great disaster was a fatal blow to my clan. My clansmen died one after another, but their souls were trapped in my clan's holy land and could not rest in peace. After so many years, their originally calm souls have become more and more violent. If they are not controlled or purified, they will become the source of a disaster for the entire divine realm. And the only one who can do this is you. This time, the voice directly stated that the person he was waiting for was Ling Ruoxue. Ling Ruoxue could no longer continue to act dumb. What makes you think I can do all this? I'm only a mid-level deity, I'm afraid I can't take on such a heavy responsibility. Ling Ruoxue declined politely. She didn't want to be a savior. She was just a small deity. For such a matter of saving people in distress, there would naturally be powerful experts who would step up. Therefore, she didn't think that such a matter would be up to her. Little girl, your flame has the ability to purify. It can let the souls of my clansmen rest in peace. Therefore, they really need your help. If you are willing to help, my clan's collection that has lasted for tens of thousands of years will all belong to you. Also, the only surviving junior of my clan can also recognize you as its master. My clansmen have some special abilities that will be very useful to you. The voice coaxed. Chapter 1395, An Unusual Path, 2. You should know by looking at this house that our clan has many good things. You won't be at a disadvantage. The voice helplessly reminded. Your commission is for me to help purify the souls of your clansmen. Ling Ruoxue probed. Even though she was tempted by the things here, she had to be alive to enjoy them. She didn't want to do something she couldn't do for these good things. It was no different from suicide. However, it seemed that the purification that she knew of was usually directly burned by fire, and those so-called souls would naturally all turn into ashes. Yes. My clansmen have all been dead for tens of thousands of years. If they don't rest in peace, they'll probably turn into vengeful spirits. So, please save them. The voice pleaded. I'll try. However, I can't guarantee that I can do it, but you have to promise me that even if I can't do it, you can't stop me from taking Brother Ian and the others out of here. Ling Ruoxue started to talk about her conditions. Actually, she felt that the voice was probably lying when it said that they would be in danger if she couldn't rescue them in time. This was because the voice was certain that she wouldn't just stand by and watch. If not, why would they come all the way here? However, they were using Brother Ian as bait, and she couldn't help but fall for it. Thus, she could only state her conditions clearly. Regardless of whether Brother Ian and the rest were really in danger, she was going to take them away. If she could purify the clansmen mentioned by the voice and obtain their many years of collection, it would be a good thing. However, she could not be too sure about such things. Therefore, she would never make any promises to the voice. You can definitely do it. The voice replied confidently after hearing Ling Ruoxue's words. We've agreed to your commission. Can you let us through now? Ling Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. This house had appeared on the road they had come from. Hence, the road ahead was completely blocked by the house. Hence, they could only continue on after the house let them through. Not only will I let you go, but I'll also take you to my tribe's holy land. The voice was filled with joy. After he finished speaking, a translucent white beast that looked like a fox appeared in front of Ling Ruoxue and the others. Ling Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes to size up the almost transparent little beast in front of her. She was secretly shocked. This little beast was actually a spirit as well. However, this little beast's mind was unusually clear. Its fiery red eyes also flickered with the light of wisdom. It looked like an extremely intelligent little beast. What kind of beastie are you? Ling Ruoxue asked curiously. I'm a fox. The little translucent beast replied shyly. Fox? Ling Ruoxue furrowed her brows and thought for a while, but she realized that she had no information on this type of beast. You're really a fox? Suddenly, Shuang shouted, his fluffy face full of disbelief. What's wrong? Ling Ruoxue and the rest looked at Shuang in confusion. According to the historical records of our fox clan, a long, long time ago, the term fox referred to two types of beasts. One was a fox, and the other was a raccoon. Not only do we look similar, but we are also related by blood. Moreover, the raccoon's strength was one of the best in the divine realm. As such, the Fox clan could definitely be compared to the kings of the Dragon and Phoenix clans in the divine realm. However, ever since the Raccoon clan went extinct, our Fox clan declined, Shuang said with a hint of sadness. In fact, what it didn't say was that the Fox clan was once strong because of the existence of the fox. Moreover, the Fox clan was good at charm, while the fox was good at fighting. In addition, the fox also had a very enviable innate skill, which was transmigration. To put it bluntly, Siri could travel to any place they wanted to go, as if they were entering a no-man's land. And Siri, whose strength had reached the hierarch level, could even travel through time and space. However, now that there were outsiders, it naturally couldn't say this out loud. The civet cats that the major families knew were probably the ones it had said before. Yes. Little fox, I didn't expect you to know about this. The little white beast's fiery red eyes were filled with tears as it spoke with excitement. Little fox? When Snow Shadow heard this form of address, he was extremely depressed. After all, it had lived for many years and had always been the one calling others little fellow. Now, it was being called little fox by a soul that had been dead for who knew how many years. This was really a little strange. Ha ha ha. Although I'm already dead, I'm probably much older than the current leader of your Fox clan. It's not a loss for you to call you a little fox, right? The little translucent beast, who had seen through Snow Shadow's thoughts, said. A palm-sized little beast had called the gigantic Shuang a little fox. Not only Shuang could not bear it, even Ling Ruoxue and the rest felt that it was a little strange. However, out of consideration for Shui Ying's face, they were kind enough not to laugh out loud. You can call me Shui Ying. Snow Shadow gritted his teeth. However, he couldn't possibly argue with a dead person who was considered half his ancestor. However, it was still very unhappy. All right then. Snow Shadow. Little girl, I'll take you to my clan's holy land. The little white beast said to Ling Ruoxue. You can call me Ling Ruoxue or Shua. Ling Ruoxue reminded. When she heard this voice calling her a little girl, she didn't feel anything. However, now that the owner of the voice had appeared, that slightly mature voice, coupled with such a small body, hearing the words, little girl from its mouth, she couldn't take it anymore. All right then. Shua. The little white beast seemed to be very aggrieved. After it finished speaking, it enveloped Ling Ruoxue and the others in a white light. Then, Ling Ruoxue and the others watched as they passed through the wall and came to the other side of the road. Ugh! Was this considered a wall-crossing technique? He really didn't think that a small beast like the fox would have such an ability. It was really too heaven-defying. If he had such a small beast, stealing things would be like entering a no-man's land. Ling Ruoxue looked at the little snow-white beast, her beautiful eyes glowing as her imagination ran wild. In fact, not only her, even Ziyu and the others had the same thought. The two guards of the Yin family were so surprised that they fell into a daze, unable to come back to their senses for a long time. Chapter 1396, An Unusual Path, 3, Little Li, where is your sacred ground? Hurry up and bring us there. Ling Ruoxue looked at the sky and urged. Little Tanuki. Hearing Ling Ruoxue's form of address, the little white beast was taken aback. It thought to itself, who is this little girl calling? It's you. Ling Ruoxue looked at the little white beast's dazed expression and knew that it had yet to react. I'm not called Little Tanuki. The little white beast sighed helplessly. It seemed that this little girl was a lazy person. She didn't even ask for its name and just called it Little Tanuki. Oh. Ling Ruoxue gave a light reply and did not continue. The little white beast, who had been waiting for Ling Ruoxue to ask for its name, saw that she did not continue to ask as it had expected. It then asked in confusion, why didn't you ask for my name? This little girl's reaction was really too different. It seemed that it was not easy to guess her thoughts. Sob. Why did the heavens send such a difficult little girl to solve the problem of their clan? This little girl was clearly not someone who knew her place. At this moment, the little white beast made an important conclusion to Ling Ruoxue. The name is not important. If you want to tell us, we will ask you even if we don't. If you don't want to tell us, it's useless for us to ask. Ling Ruoxue said in a tongue-twister-like manner. Ah. Emoli. The little white beast introduced itself. Emoli. You're clearly white. Why are you called Emoli? It's so strange. Before Ling Ruoxue could say anything about Emoli's name, Yuqing asked curiously. Ah. My name doesn't seem to have anything to do with my color. Our leopard cat race doesn't name ourselves according to color. After hearing the Moon Eye's words, the little white beast's forehead was filled with black lines, and it couldn't help but secretly sigh in its heart. When did soul-gnawing beasts become so stupid? It really didn't dare to imagine how the soul-gnawing beast clan had managed to survive until now. Could it be said that they were just too lucky? Oh. Little Black. Hurry up and bring us to your race's holy land. After hearing Emoli's explanation, Yuqing urged him with embarrassment. The little white beast, Emoli, let out a sigh. He was completely depressed. He had already said that his name was Emoli. Did he still need to emphasize that his name was not Little Black? He didn't know if this soul-gnawing beast was really stupid or was deliberately toying with him. It was really infuriating. However, it was the little girl who needed its help now, so it naturally couldn't get angry at them over such a small matter. So, after thinking about it, it held back. However, it still couldn't help but remind him, "Please call me Emily, not Blackie." Although the meaning of black and ink was similar, black was black, and ink was ink. They definitely could not be mixed together. Emily insisted on this. "All right. Lee. Hurry up and bring us there," Yu Qing said disapprovingly. Since this little beast was not satisfied with Little Black, then she would just change the way she addressed it. It was not a big deal. "Let's go." Emily sighed and decided not to argue about the name anymore. Otherwise, it would be so angry that its soul would fly out of its body. Following that, the white light enveloped Ling Ruoxue and the rest. They were teleported to the gate of the Holy Land that Emily had mentioned. The so-called Holy Land was actually an unusually large and gorgeous palace. The top of the palace reached into the clouds, and it was impossible to see the end. One could only imagine how large the palace was. "Go in. There's a lot of space inside, and there are many passages. You must follow me closely and don't run around. Otherwise, if you end up trapped here, I won't be able to save you," Emily reminded. This palace was the crystallization of the Fox clan's wisdom. It was full of traps and mechanisms. Since no one had been in control of the palace for many years, it was similar to an ownerless palace. However, this ownerless palace would automatically set up defenses, especially when it sensed an aura that did not belong to the Fox clan. Therefore, it was impossible for any outsider to leave the palace alive unless they were led by a member of the Fox clan. "Which path leads to the sacred land's core?" Ling Ruoxue asked as she looked at the numerous paths in front of her, which were covered with top-grade black crystals and were so bright that they could reflect a person's image. "Ha ha ha. Shua, don't worry. None of these paths were. Follow me." Emily pushed open the door of the room closest to them and walked in. Ling Ruoxue and the rest followed him in, only to realize that the room was completely empty. There was nothing at all. Emily smiled mysteriously when he saw the confused expressions on Ling Ruoxue and the others' faces. Then, he raised his little paw and a white light covered Ling Ruoxue and the others again. Then, he brought them through the wall. She could only watch as she passed through wall after wall. The walls were all made of crystals, so one could imagine how hard they were. Furthermore, she had never experienced such an experience before. Ling Ruoxue felt extremely strange, and she did not know what kind of feeling lingered in her heart. However, she was now certain that these legendary beasts like the fox didn't like to walk the ordinary path, and the paths they saw just now were probably just a smokescreen. Who asked them to have such a heaven-defying skill? This was a talent that could not be envied. They didn't know how many walls Emily had brought them through. When Ling Ruoxue and the others felt a little dizzy, they finally arrived at their destination. The so-called core of the Holy Land was actually the center of the entire palace, and just by standing outside the door of the core, they could feel the dense spiritual energy emitted from inside. "Shua, this is the place." The ancestor who built this Holy Land was one of the oldest and most famous ancestors of the Fox tribe. In the eyes of the Fox tribe, the ancestor's wisdom was definitely above that of humans. Otherwise, this Holy Land would not have been built so beautifully. It must be known that such a palace was unique even among the beast tribe. "Can we go in?" Ling Ruoxue asked for Emily's opinion. "Yes." Emily nodded, but his little body kept trembling. Obviously, he was a little nervous. After all, he hadn't come back for a long time. He was like a child who hadn't come home for a long time and was afraid of his home. With Emily's permission, Ling Ruoxue pushed open the heavy door with her slender hands. Then, a strong spiritual qi gushed out. Ling Ruoxue and the rest walked in and looked at the place that was known as the core of the Holy Land. How should he put it? This was considered a room, but it was not completely a room because the area of this room was too large. Many open spaces were planted with all kinds of flowers. If she didn't know that this was the holy land of the fox race, she would definitely think that this was the residence of some senior. The room was completely open and there were no windows. Sitting in the inner room, one could see the scenery outside. There were a few praying mats placed in the middle of the room. A small table was placed in the middle of the praying mats. When Ling Ruoxue saw this, she guessed that this was the place where the clan leader or elder of the leopard cat clan discussed matters. However, it was obvious that the souls of the members of the fox clan that Emily had mentioned were not here. Emily, where are the souls of your people? Ling Ruoxue could not help but ask. You guys follow me, be careful. Emily, who was reminiscing about his family's elders, came back to his senses and said. Following that, it brought Ling Ruoxue and the rest to the garden. In an unremarkable corner of the garden, there was a translucent wall. Through the wall, Ling Ruoxue and the others could clearly see countless translucent souls like Emily floating there. However, some of the souls had gradually turned gray. When those souls turned completely black, they would become real vengeful spirits. By then, even the wall would not be able to stop them. This wall contains the souls of our ancestors. Therefore, it can prevent these souls from breaking through the wall. However, tens of thousands of years have passed, and the deterrence of the souls of our ancestors has become weaker and weaker. It won't be long before they cross the wall and wander around the entire divine world. It will be a disaster for the divine world. Emily said with concern. Since their souls haven't been destroyed, why didn't they reincarnate? Ling Ruoxue asked in confusion. From what she knew, other than reverent god-level cultivators, it seemed that anyone below the god-king level could be reincarnated as long as their soul did not dissipate. The reason why these souls existed was proof that their souls were intact. At least, they did not look like they had any problems on the surface. If that was the case, why were they trapped here? She could not figure it out. They're all cursed and can't be reincarnated. Emily said with some difficulty. The cursed clansmen were sometimes clear-headed and sometimes confused. Once they were not clear-headed, they would attack each other's souls. As time went by, the clansmen who were always defeated would become more and more resentful. Therefore, they would gradually turn into resentful spirits. Once one clansman turned into a resentful spirit, it would devour the other clansmen. It could definitely devour one or more vengeful spirit kings, and even give birth to a vengeful spirit emperor. To the divine realm, that would definitely be a great catastrophe of destruction. Why are you fine? Ling Ruoxue looked at Emily and asked curiously. According to the records, although the soul could retain its consciousness, it would not be as clear as Emily's. The soul and the divine consciousness were different. The soul was very fragile and could only remember a limited number of things. However, the divine consciousness could remember everything about its master, including the tasks that its master had assigned to it. Therefore, before Emily showed up, she had thought that it was someone's divine consciousness that was talking to them. It had never crossed her mind that it was someone's divine consciousness. The one who wanted them to complete the mission was actually a soul. In order to keep my mind clear at all times, the clan leader sacrificed himself. Otherwise, I would be no different from the soul locked up here. Mo Yen lowered his head and said with tears in his fiery red eyes. The disaster tens of thousands of years ago had caused many of the members of the leopard cat clan to die or be injured. Even after their deaths, the clansmen could not rest in peace and could not be reincarnated. However, the powerful ancestors of the clan might not have died if they had not sacrificed themselves for the sake of their clansmen. Unfortunately, even if they had sacrificed themselves, they could not save these cursed clansmen. The only person who could save the members of the leopard cat clan was this beautiful human girl in front of them.